St. Louis penalized once already tonight. That one was for a false start on offense. As they communicate with the Minnesota captains. Will be offsides, and that'll give the Minnesota Vixen a first down.
We'll take them any way we can get them this early in the game. Minnesota's definitely trying to get their rhythm going. Once Minnesota gets that rhythm going, though, these women are going to be marching down this field.
So the second penalty for St. Louis, 10 total yards in penalties. It'll be 1st and 10 here from the Minnesota 48. Vixen starting to march the ball up the field again this drive, the third for Minnesota. Caused on a fumble recovery by Sil Winton to give them excellent field position. Evans, the quarterback. She'll get the snap, dropping back, looking here onto the near side. Miscommunication there as the ball falls incomplete on the 40. Looking for a combination of Cooper and Ellenberger, second down. For Minnesota, entering this game at 5-0. Third overall, according to the Massey rankings, behind Detroit at number 2 and St. Louis at number 1. As the Vixen approach the line here, 2nd and 10 from their own 47-yard line. Evans out of the pistol with Nelson in the backfield. Segula here on the near side. And now getting the snap. Nelson with a hole off to the left side across the 50. She'll roll down to the 47 of St. Louis. And another excellent run on first down.
Yeah, it's great to see her running on that play. I don't know what's going on here for some reason. Yeah, it's third down, actually. We got that incomplete pass there on our first down attempt, and then our second down there with Nelson. Picked up about 6 yards, it looks like. 5 yards of correction.
So it'll be 3rd down and 4. First play of the game for Minnesota on the St. Louis side of the field from their 47-yard line. And a 3rd and 4 with a loaded backfield. Evans gets a snap to Nelson. Nelson across the 45, spinning, taking the slam with her, and a first down for Minnesota.
And that's what we were talking about, that we needed Tank Nelson to get out there and do. Give Tank the ball, let her do what she does best, which in football is move the pile with her.
6th play of the drive coming up here for Minnesota. 4:20 and counting remaining on this clock. It'll be 1st and 10 from the St. Louis 43-yard line. Again, 2 drives for Minnesota, a turnover on downs in the first and a punt on their second. As the Vixen approach the line, Evans, the quarterback, in the backfield, receives the snap, low, pull down there. Evans gives it to Nelson. Gain of 1 yard there as the ball up the middle. Short gain for a yard, second down.
Pick up the play. Second down and 9.
It'll be 2nd and 9 here, as again the Vixen will switch players and formations. A very quick feeling first quarter here, already 3.5 minutes.
Yep, Maryburg Ellenberger back in there now, so we have an extra receiver.
It's a shotgun formation for Evans. Segula, Cooper, and Ellenberger. The wideouts to the left as it's a give to Nelson. Nelson across to the 40 before she's pushed down by a Murray of Slam. Down to the 40-yard line, and another big 3rd down for the Vixen.
Number 34, Janessa Nelson back there. Gain of 1 yard on the play. 3rd down and 8.
So 3rd and 8 from the St. Louis 41-yard line upcoming.
You know, the other thing we need to tell a lot of our viewers at home is, I mean, you and I have spent a lot of time in press boxes in our lives, whether it's high school, college, semi-professional sports, and this is the first time I've ever actually had to look into the sun to call a game. Our cameras are facing into the sun. It's definitely not fun from a broadcast standpoint. So if you hear a little delay on the call, it's us trying to squint.
Evans throw looking for Cooper, in and out of the hands, incomplete. Well, that would have been a great completion to Grace Cooper, but it falls incomplete, and 4th down will send out the punting unit again for Minnesota. not to belabor the press box point, but the heat certainly a factor as well.
Yeah, I'm glad this was a 7 p.m. kickoff local time, because anything earlier than that, we would just have that much longer, into the sun, into the heat. So hopefully once the sun tucks down behind those clouds, the temperature will drop with it.
So here's Tank to punt, grabs it at the 50, a line drive. As Nutzling will watch it bounce across to the 10 is where she'll pick it up. Running to the left, Nutzling with a hole across to the 30. Trying to cut back, evades one. Vixen to the 50. She breaks through. She's got daylight. Nutzling to the 20, to the 10, 5, touchdown St. Louis on the punt return. And it's been Nutzling that's cost the Vixen twice as they lead 13-0.
And that's the problem that you saw in the film, or we saw in the film earlier in the game here too, is the special teams for the St. Louis Slam know how to get down the field. They know how to block on special teams. So if Minnesota can't get somebody on them soon enough, unfortunately in this situation, we saw what the result of that's going to be.
So a 90-yard touchdown return on the punt for St. Louis gives them the 13-0 lead. We await the extra point. And the extra point is good. And with that, with a minute 54 remaining here in this first quarter of play, the score reads 14-0 St. Louis over your Vixen. And Brian, it wasn't necessarily the offense or the defense. It's been the special teams that have been really running up the score here for St. Louis.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing the scoring power that the St. Louis brings to their special teams units this year. And Minnesota is going to have to figure out a way to put a stop to that pretty quick if they want to have a chance to keep up in this game.
And so the Vixen will be receiving the kickoff here. 14-0 the score on what's becoming a still hot and humid. You see lots of people crafting fans out of the game programs here at St. Mary's Catholic High School on the south side of St. Louis. And now the St. Louis Slam will kick off. It'll be Taylor Hay, I believe, who will kick this one. She lines up in the kicking formation. And now Hay running into it, bounces it off the ground, bounces high again. As it goes to the 30, it can be fielded there by Adri Vogt. Vogt to the 35, trying to keep moving forward before she's pulled down to the 35-yard line. After a bouncy ball there on the kickoff, it'll be a good field position for Minnesota as they try to get on the scoreboard.
Number 1, Adri Vogt on the return.
And so it'll be 1st and 10 upcoming here for Minnesota. And for the Vixen, who entering this game were on a 3-game shutout streak. Again, the offense has to do some helping.
Definitely have to do some helping there. I was trying to find our one of my pages of statistics that happens to have blown away. I believe there's the page. You just you just passed right through it. Yes, I was correct. The 14 points given up by Minnesota already tonight is the most points that Minnesota has given up all season so far in a game.
The only time, really, they've given up more than one touchdown in a game came back in that first game on April 6th against Kansas City when the Vixen were victorious 17-13. Nelson on the first handoff hits a player and goes down. She leaned forward. They may have given her the spot of a yard or two. Looks like they'll spot it a yard on the gain there. It'll be 2nd down upcoming.
Second down and 9.
So 2nd down and 9 upcoming from the Minnesota 36-yard line. As we're almost to a minute left here to go in this first quarter of play. Alongside voice of the Vixen, Brian Sweeney, I am Alex Westad. 14-0 your score. The winner of this one would, in essence, end up being the Midwest Division champion.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Minnesota has left with the Wisconsin Dragons next week and the Iowa Phoenix to close out the season on the road, and then St. Louis themselves, they travel to Cincinnati next week, and then they're home the last week of the season hosting the Columbus Vanguard. So looking at St. Louis's record, looking at how they've done this season against teams, I can't see a reason why they would lose either of those games.
3rd down and 7.
So 3rd and 7 after the sweep by Belvina McGrath, one of the rushing leaders. Again, we've talked about in our games before the three-headed monster for McGrath. 43 carries, 286 yards entering the game today. And so it'll be another 3rd down upcoming for Minnesota. 3rd and 7 from their own 38-yard line. Again, a very close-knit formation. Evans, the quarterback. Movement early on the near side. Looking left side, looking for Segula. Created some separation. Shot to come back. No, incomplete. Vixen fans here, and there are many, want a flag. But the flags stay in the pockets. 4th down.
You know, from this standpoint, to me, from our vantage point here, Alex, it actually just looked like really good coverage. I can see why the Vixen fan would want the flag. Your team's down by 2 touchdowns. You're trying to move the ball down the field. But from what I saw, Segula was well covered.
I completely agree with you there, too, Brian. Great defensive coverage by St. Louis. But a good run there by Segula to get behind the defense at first. But a pretty good adjustment to get back as well. So Nelson will be on to punt again. This will be the 2nd time. No, that's not right. The 3rd time punting for Minnesota today. So Nelson stands at the 27-yard line. This time a high lofting punt will bounce at the 45. Takes a St. Louis bounce before it's down at the 47-yard line by Nina. And then it'll be a turnover the turnover after the punt. And St. Louis will get the ball on the other side of the 2nd quarter. And at the end of 1, the score reads Minnesota 0, St. Louis 14.
At the end of 1 quarter play, our score is St. Louis 14, Minnesota.
And again, we do apologize about that extra sound that we are picking up. And so, Brian, not necessarily the greatest of starts here in St. Louis, but lots for the Vixen to build off of moving forward.
You know, it definitely gives them an opportunity. You know, unfortunately, you come into games like this not knowing what to expect, and there is plenty of talk around the league of them wanting to go up to Division I. People think Minnesota needs to be there. Well, in order to be a Division I team, you have to be able to beat all your Division II teams. So we're going to have to see what Minnesota does the rest of this game.
I think the comparison you can make, too, Brian, is with one of the schools that you work for, St. Thomas, in the MIAC, being forced out. And unfortunately, I think the comparison could be made there as well, as the two teams will briefly return to the line to start the 2nd quarter of play. St. Louis will begin their first drive of this 2nd quarter, 1st and 10 from their own 48-yard line. So 1st and 10 from their own 48-yard line. As a quarterback, Gall out of the shotgun. Has one receiver off to the left. To the right. Snap. And the pitch out to the left side here as they'll get into the backfield trying to bring her down before finally she does. Great penetration and great ability to stay with the ball as Tilly Tilford gets back for the tackle for loss.
Tilly Tilford's a great veteran on this Vixen team. She's been playing for a number of years, and she gets into that backfield, and she does not let go. I mean, she got a hold of number 80, which is not printed on my roster list. I'm being told her name is Danielle, and so Danielle Price, there we go. She's on that one. She's not on the one on the WFA site for some reason.
So far on the season for Tilford, 1.5 tackles for loss coming in. She's the team leader in tackles, 20.5 on the season. Those are the kind of plays that the Vixen are going to need to see, as it'll be 2nd and 13 from the St. Louis 44-yard line. The snap is the handoff given on the, that even faked me out as the ball falls incomplete. I fell for that ball fake as a threat there of Taylor Hay in the backfield, but the ball from Gall throws incomplete. 3rd down upcoming.
So far, Gall this game has only thrown 3 times. And, you know, when you throw twice for the first drive and that second reception gets you into the end zone, there's really not a need to throw too often. But with this being the Slams' 4th possession, hopefully we can see Minnesota put another stop or cause another turnover like they did the last time.
3rd and 13 here from the St. Louis 44-yard line. Empty backfield as they'll have trips out to the left. Watch for Nutzling and Hay on the left side in that bunch formation. As the snap gotten to here by Gall. Thrown over the middle. Incomplete. Intercepted! Great play out of the backfield.
Connor Joe Lewis with the interception. And it was needed in that time. So that's already St. Louis's second turnover of the game. They've lost a fumble, and now they've thrown an interception as well.
Well, Brian, I don't know if you noticed this on that play, but it felt as though that trips bunch that I pointed out didn't even move.
No, on the close side to us here, they stayed there the entire time. I don't know if they were trying to run a decoy or what they were doing exactly, but paid off big for Minnesota and Connor Joe Lewis as they take over.
So for Connor Joe Lewis, her third interception of the season, excellent play. That ball was headed right for her, and nobody else was going to get it. So Minnesota will start this next drive. They'll be going 1st and 10 from their own 35-yard line. As the first ball here carried to the right side by Cooper. Cooper trying to cut through. Pushing forward to the 42-yard line before she's pushed out of bounds. Flag is on the play. Great run there by Grace Cooper. It will be holding, though, so it will not matter.
Minnesota.
So a nice run by Grace Cooper gets negated on the holding call. And that'll set up 1st and 20. And after things are starting to go your way, that's not how you want that ball to bounce.
No, I mean, in that instance there, St. Louis is actually moving the ball the direction of the field that they want to without even having possession at the time.
So 1st and 19 now for Minnesota, this time from their own 26-yard line, because that's where the ball will be spotted. Evans out of the shotgun, spreads them out, 2 left, 2 right, 1 in the backfield, as that's Belvina McGrath. Handoff is to Cooper, As Cooper met in the backfield, brought down a couple of flags. I thought I saw a face mask in there. We'll see if that's what it is.
Yeah, it looked like Cooper's head was kind of jerked to the backside of her as she was running through there.
And the signal is the face mask call, and that should be an automatic first down for Minnesota. So after the holding, the face mask negates that. Another fresh set of downs here for the Vixen.
Yeah, and ironically enough, the penalty there actually puts them right at what Grace's run was before the holding call.
So they'll tack on a couple of yards to that. Some miscommunication between the chain gang, it looks like. It'll be should be 1st and 10, from the 41. The clock stopped here, 12:27 remaining, 14-0, St. Louis leading. Was a Kaylee Nutzling touchdown reception to open the scoring for St. Louis, and then a 92-yard punt return touchdown by Nutzling. That gives them this 14-0 lead. A couple of extra points tacked on by Thompson for St. Louis. And so Evans, the quarterback, she'll await the snap. Low snap. Fakes the run. Bubble out to the side. Segula with the completion across the 45. Finds a seam. Pushed out of bounds across the 45-yard line of St. Louis. And another nice play. That bubble screen working very well for Minnesota.
You know, and Tank Nelson, number 34, was out there at the top, and she threw a great block. So she's responsible for a lot of those yards after the catch for Segula on that play.
So 1st and 10 here for Minnesota from the St. Louis 44-yard line. It'll be a pistol formation. Cooper in the backfield behind Evans. We had movement early on the right side, and that'll be a false start on Minnesota right on the offensive line there. As number 62, Devin Pazdernick, moved just a little too early.
Yep, this is Devin's second season with the Minnesota Vixen. She played last year as a rookie. Saw quite a bit of playing time, but even more so this year as she's matured and become an even better player.
So 1st and 15 now from the St. Louis 49-yard line. The clock stop continues to run at 11:33 and counting. The Vixen have moved the ball into St. Louis territory, but have no points to show for it as of yet. Lots of time left in this ball game. Evans, a quarterback. Sent in motion, Janessa White. Hand off to Cooper. Cooper back across the 50, continuing to spin down. Maybe gain of 1 or 2 there as the ball spotted at the 47-yard line. Second down.
Looks like we got a slam player, a little slow to get up. Number 3 there. Took her time getting up. She's got a little bit of a hobble to her step as she gets situated for the next play. Holding her right thigh.
That is Kaylee Nutzling, the offensive, the reason for the scoring so far for St. Louis. Something to watch as the game moves on. That's the pistol formation. Out of the backfield, I believe Connor Joe Lewis, the quarterback now. Hands it off to Cooper, off to the right side. Great penetration in the backfield and a great tackle. Loss of 3 on the play, on the tackle by St. Louis's number 45, Chelsea Vinson. And for St. Louis and Vinson, she's a defensive leader for them. They do have a Vixen down. That is Cooper down.
Now Cooper, this is only her 3rd game back from having surgery in the offseason. So she did last year. She, finished the season. She had some injuries, and she wanted to, get the surgery taken care of in the offseason. Her rehabilitation, getting back to 100%, took a little bit longer. She debuted back 3 weeks ago when we were in Wisconsin, and then she played again last week when we were hosting Iowa. But she is up. She is walking off the field under her own power, which is good to see.
So at this time, Belvina McGrath will come into the game to do the running backing combined with Nelson. Again, one of the benefits there is that you have those additional help in the backfield, and that 3-headed monster, when it's 2, can still be effective. So it'll be 3rd and 14 from the St. Louis 48-yard line. 10-10 to go here. Second quarter of play. As the Vixen will break the huddle, they will head to the line. Shotgun formation. Segula and McGrath on the near side. Fortunately, my eyes aren't quite as good for that far side. As it'll be Nelson in the backfield. Low snap, Evans dropping back to pass. Throwing here to the right side, looking for Segula, in and out of the hands. And incomplete, fortunately, on the defense. Jamie Skinner for St. Louis, 4th down.
Now, personally, on that one, I would have called the pass interference call because there was definitely a little bit of a push there that pushed McGrath back, and that was the reason that she was not able to pull that ball in.
So Tank will go back to do the punting here. And we hear the Vixen calling for a timeout, and they will get one. It'll be the first timeout of the game for either team, so 2 left for Minnesota. And with 9:50 remaining, St. Louis leading 14-0 in this one. The drive so far, Minnesota's their first drive was a turnover on downs and a St. Louis touchdown reception by Kaylee Nutzling. Another Minnesota punt, fumble recovery on the St. Louis turnover. Then a Minnesota drive that turned into the 92-yard punt return touchdown by Nutzling. Then a punt, the interception by Connor Joe Lewis, and then the last Minnesota drive.
And coverage of this game of the week is sponsored in part by Blue Frame Technology, the premier end-to-end streaming provider of sports organizations across the United States. With over 600 clients in the NCAA Division I, Division II, and Division III conferences and other sports leagues as well. More info about Blue Frame's end-to-end solution for production management and distribution for video streaming is available at blueframetech.com.
So after the Minnesota timeout, they have 2 remaining. Tank Nelson will be back to punt. And it'll be Nutzling to receive this punt, already with that 92-yard touchdown return for St. Louis so far in this game. And the snap, Nelson gets it. Nice punt. It'll roll to the left, bouncing out of bounds on the other side of the 30-yard line. The spot should be about the 26. And that is where it'll be 1st and 10 for St. Louis from the 26-yard line.
And for the people at home that are wanting an update on this, I can attest for certain that Grace Lee Cooper, number 42, is moving around perfectly fine on the sideline. They're making sure that her shirt gets tucked back in. So without a doubt, we're going to see her back in here the next time Minnesota gets the ball.
So 9 We do have a St. Louis timeout. Oh, the last timeout was St. Louis. Okay, we're right by the PA announcer, and they're helping us out with some things. So it's 3 timeouts for Minnesota, 2 for St. Louis. And that's where Minnesota will start their next drive here. 1st and 10 from their own 26-yard line. The last one was the interception by Connor Joe Lewis. And we'll see how St. Louis chooses to attack things here. Quarterback Gall sends in motion to the right. Gall throwing there to the right side. Again, they continue to go with that Hail Mary off to the right side as the ball falls incomplete.
2nd and 10.
Yeah, once again, they're throwing that ball, to number 3, Kaylee Nutzling. And, as you've already stated, she's got the points for them this game so far. So there's no reason not to continue to get the ball her direction there. And it was just out of her fingertips that time, or she had nothing in front of her but an end zone again.
2nd and 10 here for St. Louis from their own 25-yard line. As Gall will send the receiver in motion again. Handoff to Hay up the middle. Hay getting through traffic, breaking through to the right side, trying to get past that last line of defense before she's finally brought down across the 42-yard line. An excellent tackle by Ann Thyssen to get back there for Minnesota to save the touchdown. It'll be 1st and 10 here for St. Louis.
Another veteran player. Thyssen's been with the Vixen for a number of years, and she knows how to get herself where she needs to be to make those tackles to prevent that touchdown from happening.
So it'll be 1st and 10 for St. Louis from their own 42-yard line. Again, Hay, one of the rushing leaders in the WFA Division II. 521 yards coming into play today. 4 touchdowns entering play. And we'll see how they continue to use her. Gall in motion again. They've done that very well so far. Ball thrown up there looking for Nutzling. Too far. Incomplete. As the intended receiver was unable to get there. Sammy Lindberg, 2nd down. Sammy Lindberg, actually a Minnesota native from Fridley in Elk Mound College. So on the incompletion will be 2nd down and 10.
In St. Louis, they started with 2 completions, which got them that first score, and then they've gone incompletion, interception, incompletion since then. So something is not clicking quite right for the St. Louis quarterback at this time with her passes.
2nd and 10 upcoming here for St. Louis from their own 41-yard line. 8:30 on the clock here in this first half. Gall, the quarterback, out of the shotgun. 1 to the left, 2 in a bunch formation to the right. Gall gets the ball. She's throwing it over the middle. Incomplete. As that time she was looking for Veronica Smith out of East St. Louis. It's incomplete. 3rd down.
Caitlin Hill with great coverage again. Last Saturday, Caitlin Hill had her first career touchdown. She was pretty excited for that. It was an interception for a touchdown last Saturday, and congratulations to her. It's always good to get that first one under your belt, and hopefully she'll get another one here soon.
So 3rd and 10 here for St. Louis from their own 41-yard line, as they'll choose to go smaller here on the receiving core. As the quarterback Gall with Hay in the backfield, has Price out to the left alongside Chelsea Clay, and then Nutzling, the offensive threat on that far side. As now finally St. Louis approaching the line here on this 3rd and 10. Quarterback Gall out of the shotgun, gets a snap, hands off to Hay. Hay hits the hole. Great play by Red Bryant to get back there for the tackle.
Red Bryant has been waiting for this. Last week she did not dress. She gave a bunch of the rookies an opportunity to play, to get some time under their belts. And Red wanted to make sure that she was there for this season and for this game.
So 4th down and 10. What a tackle by Red Bryant. We've been waiting for a play like that. That's a statement from one of your veteran players.
Red Bryant, again, in her 21st season. She's a grandmother. Plenty of times she has her oldest son at the games. I don't know if you made the road trip to watch or not. I'll look for him at halftime, but he's probably one of the proudest sons I've ever met.
Nutzling will keep it here on the fake punt before doing the soccer style. She watches it go out of bounds. This should be great field position for Minnesota, as the judge on the far side stops right at the 50-yard line, and the Vixen have to capitalize on this drive.
Agree 100%. Minnesota needs to take the ball and needs to get it in the end zone. You cannot afford to go into halftime down by 2 touchdowns.
So for Minnesota, the 11th drive combined between these two teams.
Hey, Vixen fans, quality sports and performance care is found at Northwestern Health Sciences University at nwhealth.edu. Northwestern is the official integrative sports care provider of the Minnesota Vixen because Vixen athletes know that peak performance begins with good health. Coverage of this game of the week is brought to you in part by Northwestern Health Sciences University.
1st and 10 from Minnesota from their own 37-yard line. So Evans will send Vogt in motion. Vogt will keep it as she gains some speed, trying to get through. Vogt across, brought down right at the original line of scrimmage. No gain, 2nd down.
Vogt with her first carry in a couple of weeks here. She's been out on special teams quite often, been out on defense, and then now Minnesota's putting her in offense, see what she can do.
So the Vixen will approach the line again. 2nd down, their last drive. It was a 6-play drive, turned into a punt. As the clock continues to wind here, 7 minutes remaining, 14-0. St. Louis up over Minnesota. Alongside the voice of the Vixen, Brian Sweeney, I am Alex Westat, here from St. Mary's High School, just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. As Vogt sent in motion again, she slows down as the fake play there. Play action, Segula, a nice catch to the 50. She tries to reach for it, could not quite make it there. But it's a 1st down for Minnesota, and a great catch by Kaya Segula gives Minnesota a 1st down.
Segula with her fourth thrown to of the game, 3rd reception, gets the all-important 1st down, keep those chains moving, give Minnesota a chance to capitalize with 6:27 left in the first half.
So we have a stoppage of the clock, again due to NCAA rules. Or on the 1st down, the clock does get stopped. So it'll be 1st and 10 for Minnesota from the 49-yard line, their own 49-yard line. As the Vixen look to break that shutout. Evans, a quarterback, low snap, handoff to Tank. Tank across the 50, barreling forward almost to the 45. She falls forward to the 46. And it'll be a 2nd down upcoming.
You know, that was Tank's first carry of the ball since the 1st quarter. You know, so here we are 9 minutes into the 2nd quarter, and she finally gets her hand on that ball and picks up 5 yards on the play.
Minnesota into St. Louis territory for the 3rd drive of this game. As it'll be 2nd and 5 from the St. Louis 46-yard line. Again, Minnesota coming off 3 consecutive shutouts against Wisconsin, Kansas City, and Iowa. Not in that order. Unfortunately, I messed that up. Evans, the quarterback in the shotgun on 2nd and 5 from the St. Louis 46-yard line. Evans gets the snap. Throwing to the left side. Segula again. Why not? Cross. Great speed across the 40-yard line. Down to the 37. Another 1st down for Kaya Segula.
And Janessa White, who's out there as a receiver, actually throws another great block. And once again, Minnesota picks up a 1st down because of the blocking after the catch.
Well, I don't know if you read this, Brian. I certainly hope you would. But the WFA preview for this game featured that the game would be decided in the trenches and how well both teams would do on the blocking. And it seems as though on those plays, Minnesota has done very well to create space and get blocks open. So that way the receivers and the running backs can do very well with that. So 1st and 10 here from the St. Louis 37-yard line. Another low snap gives to Tank. There, stiff arm. We like to see that, but unfortunately she can't go much further. She'll be down to the 37-yard line, 2nd down.
You know, Minnesota, we talked about the 3-headed monster between Tank Nelson, McGrath, and Cooper. And so far this game, we've seen, 8 carries by Cooper, 6 carries by Nelson. But McGrath really only has the 1 carry so far. So I'm waiting to see when Minnesota's going to start getting her more into the action.
2nd and 10 here from the the St. Louis 37-yard line. With 4 minutes and counting remaining. Here in this one. Shotgun formation, 2 in the backfield, 1 to the left, 1 to the right. Evans, the quarterback. Throwing in Segula, nice catch, but she couldn't hold on. She jumped up, and the defensive play there by Kiana Smith knocked the ball out, 3rd down.
And that was a perfectly timed hit by Kiana Smith of the slam. She knew right when that ball was getting into Segula's hands, and she waited and timed it and hit her then.
So 3rd and 10 here upcoming from the St. Louis 37-yard line. 3:42 remaining here. As the Vixen will approach the line. Again, based on the playoff seedings right now, St. Louis, Minnesota, the 1-2 out of the Midwest Division. As the Vixen approach the line here on 3rd and 10. Shotgun formation with extra protection off to the left. Evans, the quarterback, gives it off to Cooper. Cooper going backwards. Vixen can't do that as a slam gets to her in the backfield. And who else to start the show tonight for St. Louis? Kaylee Nutzling gets into the backfield for the tackle for loss.
You know, you can look at that from two points of view. Obviously, you don't want to see the Vixen lose yardage on that play, but it was great to see that Cooper's back into the action and she's able to take that hit.
So 4th and 16 from the St. Louis 44-yard line. As Nelson will go back to punt. And it'll be Nutzling back to do the receiving here for St. Louis. And the snap in the hands of Nelson, a line drive, bounces at the 30, continues to roll, touch to slam player. They have to down it. They will at the 25. And that's where St. Louis will get the ball 1st and 10 from their own 25-yard line. 2:51 remaining. St. Louis 14, Minnesota 0.
It'll be 1st and 10 for the slam on the 25-yard line.
So St. Louis will approach the line here. 1st and 10 from their own 25-yard line. Their last drive was a punt. The last drive an interception. So it's been quite a couple of drives here since the Slam have put together a solid offensive drive with that touchdown. Again, the only touchdown, too, coming off of a short field as they started their touchdown drive through the air inside Minnesota territory at about the 35-yard line. Specifically at the 39-yard line, Hand off to Hay. To the left side, brought down. Nice defensive tackle there. 2nd down upcoming.
Number 12, Taylor Hay, the mark carrier.
You know, and that's only the 4th time this half that we've seen St. Louis rush with the ball. Most of their plays have been passes, and they've been big pass and completions at that.
So 2nd down and 10 to come here for St. Louis from their own 25-yard line. As again, the loaded backfield has Gall with Hay. Speckles, the receiver, out here to the left. And then Nutzling, the far receiver, out to the right. Gall, the quarterback, trying to draw the Vixen offside. Handoff, fake to Hay. Gall steps back, throws over to the middle, left hand. Nice defensive play to reach back and get that one, but slow to get up.
You know, Danielle Price, she was looking for the flag there, and looks like Lewis is on the field holding her left knee.
Well, Connor Joe Lewis got a piece of that ball to knock it down. Now she's certainly hurting here as we have timeout on the field. 2:04 remaining in the 2nd quarter of play. 14-0, the St. Louis Slam over your Minnesota Vixen. The touchdowns for St. Louis scored so far on their first offensive drive of the game. It was a 3-play drive, which resulted in the Nutzling touchdown pass. That would be her 4th of the season. And then the 92-yard punt return touchdown to give St. Louis the 14-0 lead.
Hey, tonight's live broadcast of the Game of the Week is brought to you by Town Square Television and Ricky Media Group. You can follow the Vixen on Town Square Television this season on Comcast Channel 14, townsquare.tv, and on Facebook Live. And special thanks to all the community stations around the Twin Cities for their support of the Minnesota Vixen.
As the training staff continues to take a look at Connor Joe Lewis alongside is Madison Schmatz as well. The two teams will go back to their respective sidelines to talk about things. Again, we also want to thank one of the St. Louis Slam players, Tori Davis, for helping us find one of our camera operators tonight. We did have a last-minute cancellation, and Tori was nice enough to help us find somebody, so we certainly want to thank Tori for her contribution, even for the enemy in this case.
Well, she's contributing to a camera operator for the Vixen broadcast, but let's be honest, St. Louis is going to have fans around their state and around the country that can't necessarily make it to the game as well. So to have that coverage available for everybody that follows the WFA to watch is a great asset to have. One thing we do want to remind people of is they are watching the game on Facebook Live. Right on the bottom of your screen there, it says click to donate, and you can donate dollars to Town Square Television. It's kind of like we're doing our own little telethon here, but no, it's for real. I mean, I've donated. It's simple. You click on the button. If you're set up through PayPal or Facebook Pay, boom, there it goes. You can do $5, $10, whatever you want. Those contributions help get the game of the week going throughout the year, whether it's high school sports, semi-pro sports, or anything like that.
While we have a moment, let's talk through the current standings and current playoff bracket on the American Conference side, where the first matchup is the Midwest 1 against Midwest 2, then the Pacific 1 against the American Conference 4. Right now, on June 15th, if the standings were to hold as they are, you would have Minnesota coming back here to St. Louis, and then on the other side of that, you would have the Houston Energy, kind of a surprise team so far, traveling to Mile High to play, or traveling to Denver, rather, to play the Mile High Blaze.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, we're definitely paying close attention to. I mean, you want to have the number one seed because that gives you the home field advantage throughout the playoffs, especially. Minnesota, it is about an 8.5-hour drive to get down here on the bus, whether it's a bus or the car. So, a lot of these players, they were up at 4:30 this morning to Northwestern Health Sciences to get on the bus to get down here for tonight's game. So many of these players, they've been up for 18 hours already.
Games to watch coming up here. Again, we expect as Connor Jo Lewis helped to her feet by the medical training staff here of the Minnesota Vixen. Some games to watch coming up here. Again, we expect that with the relatively weak schedules, I would say, of both of the teams remaining for St. Louis and Minnesota and for Houston as well, you would certainly tend to think that the winner of this game would have that number one seed in the Midwest and would be hosting a game at least in that opening round, probably in that second round against presumably Mile High as well.
Yeah, Mile High, they've come into this season and they've done just what they did last year. They've played across the organization. They played, down a division. They played up a division. They played their own division, and they've really shown that they mean business. Their slogan this year is unfinished business, and they're just going forward, and they're showing why they are the Mile High Blaze and why they think they deserve to get to that national championship, which, ironically enough, they're hosting this year.
Well, that will be at the Colorado School of Mines the weekend of July 30th. Should be a beautiful weekend up there in Colorado in July, up in the mountains. Beautiful stuff. And so with play resumed, we'll talk about the national side of Division II and the next chance that we get. Again, it'll be third and 10 here for St. Louis from their own 25-yard line with 2:04 remaining here in this first half of play. A shotgun formation for Gall. Hay in the backfield, Nutzling out to the right, as well as a receiver under the near side and to the right. As Gall calling out signals to the offensive line for protections. Gets a snap, dropping back to pass, throwing to the right side. Has that separation again, but incomplete. As that's another time they try the Hail Marys. They were looking for Danielle Price. Fourth down.
Yep, 3 times Danielle Price has been the target of those throws, and 3 times they've either fallen incomplete or overthrown her. So she has yet to get a reception this game, although she does appear to be one of the favorite targets as she has been thrown to the most of all the receivers for the Slam.
Brian, looking at the drives here, St. Louis has had, aside from that including that first touchdown drive, a drive of 3 plays, 2 plays, 3 plays, 6 plays, and now this drive of 4 plays. So the defense, certainly after that first drive on the short field, has really been showing up and stopping the St. Louis attack.
Yeah, we talked about it. I mean, there's a reason that Minnesota has the number 1 defense in the WFA. And, even right now when they're down by 14 points, you figure one of those was allowed by special teams. So as the defense goes, they haven't allowed but 3 touchdowns all season.
Nutzling's soccer-style kick can be fielded by Tilford. At the 35, she goes backward, loses the football. Nice recovery there, though, to get to it, and a good defensive play. I think that's Caitlin Hill who got that. Good recovery by St. Louis.
Yeah, Caitlin Hill was right where she needed to be there, because if Hill hadn't been there for that ball would have definitely ended up in the Slam's possession.
So Minnesota will get another chance here inside of 2 minutes remaining. And they'll set up their offense, 1st and 10 from the 36-yard line, their own 36-yard line. And again, for Minnesota on their last couple of drives, an 8-play drive, another 8-play drive, a 4-play drive. And they have been moving the ball well, too. They just haven't been able to put that final finish on a drive to get in the end zone and get some points on the board.
No, I mean, this game looks a lot like the Kansas City game that they had a couple weeks ago in Farmington, Minnesota, where it ended up to be just a 7-0 victory for the Vixen. I mean, both defenses are coming out and doing what they need to do.
Evans, the quarterback, sends him out. Evans here on the near side looking for Nelson, but has McIsaac on the catch and the completion there. Gain of 3, whistle blows. And we'll get a timeout on the field. It'll be timeout Minnesota there first after the completion by McIsaac, 2nd down.
Yep, and that was the first time McIsaac's been thrown to this game, so it's good to see her in there. I'm sure it's because if I'm looking down the sidelines here, we still have Connor Joe Lewis sitting on the trainer's table getting looked at by Dr. Mack. And I got to tell you, Dr. Mack has been with the Minnesota Vixen here for the 5 years that I've been with the team. So to have a trainer that knows your players, that knows what you need to do week in and week out, year in and year out. I mean, last year when the Vixen were the American Conference champions, Dr. Mack got a ring.
Certainly nothing wrong with that. And again, the trainers and everybody that's involved with this program, whether they're on the field or not, certainly a huge part of everything that goes into the game day. And we know that the players and the plethora of Vixen fans here in the stands here at St. Mary's High School really appreciate all the work that training staff is doing here tonight.
You know, when you bring up the fans, the Vixen fans, they're great. They travel to the road games. They fill the stands at the home games. And I got to give it to the St. Louis fans. In all the games I've been to on the road, this is the most fans for a home team that I've seen show up. So the St. Louis fans, they really appreciate the sport of women's football, and my hat's off to them.
2nd and 6 upcoming here from the Minnesota 40 with 1:39 remaining here in the first half of play. Evans, the quarterback, sends Nelson in motion out to the left. She'll get the snap, another low one. Evans stepping up in the pocket, throwing, looking for Segula, incomplete. No pass interference needed there as the ball was overthrown. 3rd down upcoming.
Yeah, so, I mean, Segula, that's the 2nd time in as many attempts as the ball has just been out of her reach. Again, brings up 3rd down. We've got 6 yards to go, 1:34 remaining in the game. On the plus side, the sun is below the trees.
And now finally we can see, as Brian mentioned earlier, that the press box would be facing the sun, especially on game days such as this. But either way, the Vixen will set up shop here for a 3rd and 6 from the 40-yard line of their own side. 3 receivers out to the right. Evans in the backfield with McGrath. Evans gets a snap, throwing to the right side. Out of the hands there. She was looking to get that pass to Janessa White. Incomplete, and a 4th down and 6 upcoming.
Yeah, Janessa White, another player that's been with Minnesota for multiple seasons. Last year in Detroit, she had a pretty rough game, but she came back healthy. She's back on the team again. And, she threw that block earlier this game that got us those yards after the catch. So Janessa looks a little frustrated with herself right now, but I know she's going to shake it off, and she's going to go out there and hit a slam player soon.
So it'll be 4th and 6 here. Nelson back to punt, and Nutzling back to receive here. The light's not on yet here in St. Louis, although they will have to sooner rather than later. Nelson's punt is a line drive, fielded there. They'll try to see if it continues to bounce, and it will, across the 30, down right about the 28-yard line. And another great punt by Nelson, who's been doing a very good job of pinning the slam as far back as she can.
The punt comes from rest on the 28-yard line. First and 10 for the slam.
So 1st and 10 for St. Louis with 1:21 remaining. They'll start on their own 28-yard line. As there's a general panic in the press box as far as which light turns on the lights outside. I think we got it now. I think we're okay. All right. 1st and 10 here for St. Louis from their own 28-yard line. Gall in the backfield has Nutzling out to the left. Another receiver, Price to the right. Handoff up the middle, trying to push through. Continues to do so. The pile just keeps on moving to the 36-yard line, or the 33 rather, excuse me. 2nd down upcoming is on that carry Mary Altepeter with 28 carries, 158 yards. on that first rush. And it'll be second down upcoming.
It'll be second and 5.
So 2nd and 5 for St. Louis from their own 33-yard line. Gall rolling out to the right, looking for Price again. Ball falls incomplete, and the clock will stop. Should have stopped, and there it is at 44 seconds. So it'll be 3rd down and 3 from the St. Louis 33-yard line.
Yeah, that pass was heading that way, and Amy Mugas, number 9 for the Minnesota Vixen, she saw it coming, but she didn't quite have enough time to turn around and make a move on that catch.
So 3rd and 5 for St. Louis from their own 33-yard line. As the sun sets here on the Gateway City. 44 seconds remaining in the second quarter. They'll spread them out wide. Bunch formation again on the left side. We didn't see it move the last time. We'll see it move last time. That was the play that turned into an interception for Minnesota. We'll see if they have a similar result. There's a Vixen crowd here making some noise, making it difficult for the St. Louis Slam team to communicate. Gall, the quarterback, gets the snap, dropping back, blitz, throws over the middle, incomplete, too far, looking for Price, and 4th down forced for the Vixen.
You know, that incompletion there is going to give Minnesota a little bit of time. They got 39 seconds on the clock here, so depending upon what St. Louis does, you know, Minnesota's going to get an opportunity for 1 for sure, possibly 2 plays, maybe even 3 plays to find the end zone.
So back-to-back 3 and outs for St. Louis. And we'll see if the Vixen are able to get some points on the board here before the second half begins. Minnesota will play defense to start the second half as St. Louis won the coin toss and then deferred. Nutzlin gets the ball. Soccer-style kick. She chooses to keep it herself. She punts it away, and then it goes bouncing across the 30-yard line to the 25, rolling down to the 20, where the Slam will watch it roll, and then finally down it at the 18-yard line. So a very odd play there.
And she was slow to get up again, so that's the second time this game that we've seen her slow to get up after a punt. So, again, as you stated earlier, we're just going to have to watch. She has her helmet off now, and her and the coach, they're exchanging some words. She's definitely frustrated with what happened.
And if you're Minnesota, you'll certainly take that frustration from a player who burned you in the first quarter, but now certainly has been held scoreless here with 26 seconds. We'll see what the Vixen are able to do, as they'll start 1st and 10 from their own 18-yard line on this drive. They've had to punt on all of their drives so far. No turnovers as of yet, as they'll start 1st and 10 from their own 18-yard line. Evans approaches the line, has Cooper in the backfield with her. There'll be 2 receivers out to the left, 2 to the right. Cooper will go to the right side of Evans, so send Nelson in motion. Cooper gets the snap. She'll roll off to the left side, continuing to keep those legs moving across the 25-yard line down to the 28-yard line. Timeout called.
Yep, Cooper with her 10th carry of the game. You know, 80% of Cooper's carries tonight have been for positive yardage. So, you know, it was the right move to give her the ball. They got 15 seconds left, and we're waiting to see what Minnesota does here. I can anticipate you're going to see, probably McIsaac and Segula running down the field for a Hail Mary.
Not quite sure why the clock was running there, as the timeout was called. There was no timeout called? I thought there was. So now they'll take the timeout. They did burn about 18 seconds off the clock by not calling that sooner. So with 1 second left to go on the clock, they'll have one shot at the end zone here to end this first half of play. And after a rocky start for Minnesota, they kind of were able to get it back together and have had a really solid defensive performance from the fifth ranked team, in Division II. So meanwhile, as the two teams will return to the field, 1 second left. We are still trying to figure out how to get the lights on here at this beautiful stadium. So 1st and 10 from their own 29-yard line. What will be basically a Hail Mary. Hope for a defensive pass interference to get a little bit of an extension, as Evans Gets it back. The horn sounds. The play will have to continue. Ball bounce up. Incomplete. McIsaac would have had daylight had she gotten to it. And that is how the first half will end, with the St. Louis Slam leading 14-0 over the Minnesota Vixen.
Yeah, that's not the way you want to see the half end. And, I mean, Minnesota, I think, really kind of shot themselves in the proverbial foot by not getting that timeout called in time, or they would have had another opportunity to at least get one more shot towards that end zone.
Well, we'll take a look at the drives and review the first half of play here. Minnesota started with the ball. They had a turnover on downs after a 6-play drive. That set up St. Louis with a short field as they started 1st and 10 from their own 39-yard line. And it was a Kaylee Nutzling touchdown reception from Jamie Gall. That'll be Nutzling's second of the season, which gave St. Louis, with the extra point, the 7-0 lead. Then a punt, a fumble recovery by Minnesota after 2 plays on a St. Louis drive. Another Minnesota punt, the 92-yard punt return touchdown for Kaylee Nutzling. Then a Minnesota punt, St. Louis interception that was picked off by Connor Joe Lewis. She's still being attended to by the medical staff here on the sideline. Then another punt, another punt, another punt, another punt, and then the end of the half. So after a very interesting start to this game, a very smoothed out process there that felt like the Vixen were starting to get the momentum on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah, we definitely saw that after that first possession by the Vixen and the first possession by the Slam there, where the defenses really stepped up. I mean, if you look at offensively, Minnesota 13 passes attempts, St. Louis with 9. Minnesota went 5 for 8. St. Louis went 2 for 6. On the rushing side of it, Minnesota with 19 rushes, St. Louis with only 5. So I mean, Minnesota tried to control the game. They had more opportunity, more chances to move the ball. It was 2 big plays in the first drive for St. Louis, and then that punt return. That's really the difference in the game right now.
So moving forward here, as the Vixen will play on the defensive side of the ball, as St. Louis won the coin toss and deferred to start the game. They will get the ball first here in the second half. Moving forward, next week for the Vixen, they will be home against the Wisconsin Dragons, the final regular season home game for Minnesota. Sean Parker and Kelly Schultz will be with you on the call. And then we will be right back with the second half of this one. And welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you for that brief timeout as we are back here. The campus of St. Mary's High School, just 5 miles south of the center of St. Louis, Missouri. The Slam leading this one by a score of 14-0. Alongside voice of the Vixen, Brian Sweeney, I am Alex Westad. Again, moving forward, the Vixen will be home to Wisconsin. I have no idea what is going on out on the field. But the Vixen will be home next weekend against the Wisconsin Dragons before traveling to Des Moines to face off against the Iowa Phoenix to conclude their regular season. St. Louis, meanwhile, will be at Cincinnati next week before returning home to face off against Columbus before their playoff season will begin. When we look at the playoff standings, again, Minnesota and St. Louis are both tied right now atop the Midwest Division. Houston at 4-0 is a half a game back. Wisconsin at 4-2 entering play today. They are a game and a half back. They are home today versus Iowa. And then the eliminated Austin Outlaws at 2-3 are 3 games back. Meanwhile, in the Pacific Division, only 2 teams. Mile High has clinched that division, and they will be in the playoffs as they are 6-0. They have a bye this week before their schedule, remaining with Utah at home and then at Kansas City. And then the Seattle will be 0-5. They are on the road at South Oregon today before being home against Oregon and Tacoma to close out their schedule. Meanwhile, on the national side, in the Northeast Division, Detroit at 5-0, Columbus 5-1, Pittsburgh 4-2, New York, Baltimore, and Philadelphia all 3-3, Cleveland at 2-4, and in the Southeast, Tampa Bay 3-3, Miami 2-3, Jacksonville 0-5. In the playoffs on that side, you would have right now a matchup with Cleveland and Detroit, and then a matchup of Columbus and Pittsburgh. And now, Brian Sweeney, we can finally breathe.
It was a great half. Like we said, defensively, it was a very good half. So we'll have to see how Minnesota comes back in the second half and what they can do.
Well, we have about 12 minutes here before everything's good. I guess if it's okay with you guys, we'll send it to break. Come on back, grab a drink of water. I know it's hot down here. It might not be out there. This is your home for Minnesota Vixen football, Town Square Television. Hi, everybody. Welcome back here to St. Mary's High School in a brief 5-minute drive from St. Louis, Missouri, where the Vixen trail the St. Louis Slam by a score of 14-0. Alongside Brian Sweeney, I am Alex Weston. And Brian, some things to share with us.
We do have plenty to share with you. Once again, we want to remind people, if they are watching the game on Facebook Live, at the bottom of your window there, you have an opportunity to donate money to Town Square Television. It's those donations that get these games on the air. I mean, obviously, we appreciate all of our sponsorships as well. Those play a big part of it, but it's the viewers that ultimately let us go on these road trips and get these games onto the air for the fans back home. And speaking of the sponsorships, one of them we want to remind people of is that tonight's live broadcast Game of the Week is brought to you by Town Square Television and the Ritchie Media Group. You can follow the Vixen on Town Square Television this season at Comcast Channel 14, townsquare.tv, and on Facebook Live. And a special thanks to all community stations around the Twin Cities for their support of the Minnesota Vixen. Conferences like the MIAA, ECC, NJCAA, GLVC, WAC, and Southern Conference are able to provide high-quality, cost-effective streaming solutions for their member schools and fans because of one of the sponsors of today's Game of the Week coverage. Blue Frame Technology. Blue Frame can provide the tools and build a custom digital network. Details are available at blueframetech.com. And also, we want to remind people, Vixen fans, Northwestern Health Sciences University offers excellence in healthcare education and clinical internships. They're located in Bloomington, Minnesota, where they train doctors of chiropractic, oriental medicine practitioners, acupuncturists, radiology technicians, and massage therapists. More info on careers in the healthcare professions is available at nwhealth.edu. The Vixen are proud to have Northwestern as our partner and provider of sports and performance care. Coverage of this Game of the Week is brought to you in part by Northwestern Health Sciences University.
Coming back here to start the second half, the St. Louis Slam, who deferred the coin toss, will begin on offense. Here they'll move from right to left across your television screen. Back to receive is a combination of Danielle Price, and off to the far side there is Kiana Smith to do the returning. Normally, for St. Louis, Kaylee Nutzling is back. However, she has appeared to be just a little bit slow, perhaps hampered by an injury, something that we will keep an eye on, and she has been the reason for the 2 St. Louis touchdowns as the ball falls off the tee. And they'll set that back up, and we'll get this kickoff underway once again. As doing the kicking duties here, I believe it's Aaron McIsaac, if I'm reading that number right. And the kick away. It's going to take a St. Louis bounce. He'll pick it up at the 25. Across to the 35, met at the 40 before she's brought down. And a good tackle to get back there. Nina Fu to make that tackle. It'll be 1st and 10 here for St. Louis from their own 40-yard line.
Yeah, definitely Minnesota learned from that punt return for a touchdown earlier. They definitely, clogged up. Instead of just going up one side or up the middle, they pretty much had a wall across the field there. So Fuchs was first on the tackle, and she was able to prevent any further yard gain.
Fuchs with a couple of special teams tackles. Some nice play here tonight. So 1st and 10 for St. Louis from their own 41-yard line. As the last 2 drives for St. Louis have resulted in 3 and outs. We'll see if the Vixen are able to force one again here. Gall, the quarterback, sends Price in motion to the left. Handoff is to Hay up the middle. Great backfield tackle made by the Vixen. I can't see the number, but 2nd down.
That was number 16, actually, on that tackle there for Minnesota, coming up the middle and making sure that nothing further happened. So, way to go, Murphy.
Kate Murphy on the tackle. 2nd and 8 upcoming from the St. Louis 43-yard line. Again, St. Louis, aside from the first 2 drives, I was talking with the public address announcer here in St. Louis, and he noticed that the first 2 crossing routes worked for St. Louis, but then after that, there have been straight lines up the middle that haven't been working for St. Louis. And on this play, Hay gets it again, spins out of a tackle, trying to go. What a play. A nice tackle there by Britta Clark for loss. 3rd down.
Minnesota, I don't know what their coach, Ryan McCulley, in his first season talked about in the halftime, but the defense definitely has come out with a bone to pick right now.
Britta Clark with the tackle for loss on Taylor Hay. Again, Hay a very effective, one of the top 10 rushers in Division II with 521 yards entering play today. So 3rd down and 7 as the Minnesota Vixen fans here in attendance will make some noise. Gall in the shotgun with Hay in the backfield. Gall gets a snap, dropping back to pass, throwing over the middle, looking for Nutzling. She's got daylight, cutting back. She breaks through the tackles, will have a blocker. She'll go to the 10, to the 5, breaks through one more tackle. Touchdown St. Louis, 20-0, the Slam lead.
Well, if there was any question on whether or not Nutzling was still favoring that right thigh that she was favoring in the first half of the game, I think we can say that she's okay, because that was a beautiful catch. She made a great move to cause the 2 Minnesota defenders to run into each other, and then she had just clear path to the end zone after that.
So Kaylee Nutzling with the 57-yard touchdown reception, her second of the game. She has accounted for all, except for the kicks, of the St. Louis points here. As a kicker, Thompson, she was perfect, 28 for 28, 2 already, and make that 3. And 31 for 31 on the season for Danielle Thompson. 21-0 on a minute and 43-second drive to give St. Louis a 21-0 lead.
You know, so Minnesota comes out. They have 2 straight tackles for loss on that drive on St. Louis, and St. Louis all of a sudden they see Nutzling wide open down the field, or single coverage, They get the ball to her, and she's, like I said, she's able to get the 2 defenders to run into each other, and then she's able to make it to the end zone.
As you see Red Bryant there, again, the stalwart of this Minnesota defensive unit. Certainly hankering things down as best she can. But again, Nutzling has been very effective when she has been given the ball tonight. Responsible for all 3 of the St. Louis Slam touchdowns as they lead this one 21-0. 13-17 remaining here in this third quarter.
Yep, and we do see Connor Jo Lewis is on the trainer's table. She has put her street clothes back on, so we can guarantee that her night is over. They're still tending to that left knee, which is the knee that she has had surgery on in the past. So we'll have to await word from Dr. Mack and see what the results are for any testing or MRIs that might be forthcoming.
Nutzling on the kickoff, high into the air. In the St. Louis Knights, Segula will pick it up at the 10, across to the 20. She'll cut back to the near side to the 30, trying to find a hole. Ooh, a nice move. Going to get around to the 35, down to the 40. And Kaya Segula with a 30-yard kickoff return and a great play.
Yeah, she was pretty much taken down at about the 26-yard line, and she got a good block, a good spin there, and she was able to pick up another 11 yards after that.
So 1st and 10 for the Minnesota Vixen from their own 40-yard line. Again, the last couple of drives for Minnesota, they've had some very good field position, starting at an average, as I look through my numbers here, starting at about the 35-yard line on each of the drives that they have had since the first quarter. And again, excellent field position here to start this first drive of the second half. So Evans, the quarterback, as McGrath, as there's a bit of a confusion, as that's Nelson in the backfield. As they had to get the kicking tee off the field. Again, thank you to the public address announcer here in St. Louis. Has been very helpful tonight.
Sometimes that third set of eyes is very important.
So Evans gets a snap here, handoff to Nelson. She'll run out to the left side, trying to break through some tackles. Continues to move. There's the Tank Nelson we know. Across the 50, first down, Minnesota.
And it's a first down, as you stated. It's a great answer to that kickoff return by Segula. And right away, Tank Nelson picks up, looks like, 12 yards on the play, and she gets another first down for Minnesota.
So a nice gain on first down for Tank Nelson. Again, Tank, 85 carries, 572 yards, 10 touchdowns coming into play today. And it'll be 1st and 10 for Minnesota from the St. Louis. Low snap. It's picked up by Nelson, spinning around, met behind the line of scrimmage for a loss. It'll be 2nd down upcoming.
Number 34, Nelson, the ball carrier. Lost 11 on the play. 2nd and 11.
So 2nd and 11 upcoming here as Nelson tackled in the backfield. It'll be a substitution as McIsaac will come in replacing McGrath. 2nd and 11 here from the St. Louis 47-yard line. Clock winding, 12 minutes to go here, third quarter of play. in this third play rather, of the first drive of the second half. Evans, the quarterback, out of the shotgun. Segula and McKaiser got to the right. White in motion as Nelson gets the handoff, pushing forward. Another nice gain. Gave him about 4 or 5 there. Down to the 42-yard line. Third down upcoming for Minnesota.
Yeah, and Tank Nelson, she's been having a great season here. She's looking at, that's her 5th carry, 972 yards on the season is what I'm seeing here. And, she's got a 6.7 yards per carry average and 10 touchdowns on the year for Tank Nelson so far.
A week ago against Iowa, 10 carries for 111 yards for Grace Cooper. I'm sorry, I read the wrong statistic. 10 carries for 83 yards, 2 touchdowns for Nelson against the Iowa Phoenix. She has been moving the ball very well tonight. On 3rd and 6 here upcoming from the St. Louis 42-yard line. Evans, the quarterback, sends White in motion to the left. Low snap. Grabbed here by Nelson again. Nelson continuing to try to push forward, but nothing doing there as St. Louis gets in the backfield. A little bit extra after the whistle, and the player were down, but 4th down upcoming.
Yep, so Minnesota looks like Evans is staying out on the field. She's talking to her her coach, Ryan McCulley, and Minnesota's going to go for it here on 4th down.
Their second 4th down attempt here in this game. The first one came on the first drive of the game for Minnesota, where they attempted a 4th and 1 from their own 37-yard line and were unsuccessful. That set up St. Louis on the doorstep, and they scored on the successive possession. So 4th and 7 from the St. Louis 43-yard line. Evans out of the shotgun. Gets a snap, dropping back. Nelson throws a block. Ball to the left side, incomplete. As she was looking for Grace Cooper out of the backfield on the left side. And a turnover on downs for Minnesota. And St. Louis will get the ball again.
Yeah, Minnesota, they had something going there. They had the great kickoff return by Kaya Segula. And then you had a couple good runs by Tank Nelson. They went for it on 4th down, and unfortunately they weren't able to convert it. So St. Louis, of course, is going to start with the ball. They're going to be 1st and 10 from their own 43-yard line,
St. Louis with a touchdown on their last drive, a 57-yard receiving touchdown for Kaylee Knightsling. The second pass touchdown for her today. She also has one on the kick. And so 1st and 10 for St. Louis here from their own 43-yard line. This will go pistol formation. Gall, the quarterback, one behind her. It's Taylor Hay. Hay gets a snap, trying to cut back. Great defensive penetration, but she evades it first, and then finally bringing down for the tackle for loss. Huge play by the Vixen as in the backfield. Trying to find where that number is. I'm not quite sure who got that tackle.
Looks like actually it was number 32, Syl Witten on the tackle again. So Syl, again, as we've stated multiple times, it's they's first season with the Minnesota Vixen, and they are here to play.
Well, they've really been doing a great job of getting in the backfield and making sure that there are tackles for loss. St. Louis calls a timeout here, and so we'll get a timeout. First of the second half for St. Louis. 9:23 remaining, 21-0 your score. As again, we'll take a look here at the Midwest, at the standings here. The playoff standings again for the division. And again, we'll take a look here. This is how it is seeded. Again, we talked about it briefly, where you have that Midwest region 1 and 2 playing each other. Right now, that would be St. Louis in the 1, Minnesota in the 2. Then in the Pacific and the American, the Pacific has been won by Mile High, so they'll be in that spot. They'll be hosting a playoff game. And then the 4th seed right now, that 4th best team in the American Conference, after the other 2 teams, would be right now the Houston Energy. And we can assume that looking at the schedule the rest of the way, I'm not sure I see a loss on Houston's schedule either.
No, I mean, that game when we get to it with Houston versus Mile High, when and if it does happen, is probably going to be the game that decides who represents the national conference in the national championship.
Meanwhile, play set to resume here. It'll be 2nd and 15 for St. Louis from their own 38-yard line. Another pistol formation. Gall, the quarterback, with Hay. Knightsling out to the left side. Onto the far side, it's Price. And an extra protection at the line. Gall trying to draw them offside. Handoff is to Hay. Hay rushing out to the left side. Oh, she faked me again, too. But the ball incomplete, looking for Price on the far side. Third down. The play-action fake of the quarterback, Jamie Gall, has been very, very good tonight.
You know, when you're throwing that ball, I think that was number 16 that ball was actually intended for over there on the far sideline. Again, it's what number 10, I'm being told. Once again, the public address announcer comes through. So that was actually Jamie Skinner that the pass was intended for. And, you know, when the ball hits you in the numbers, granted, I'm not a player. But when I did in 4th and 5th grade, I was told if the ball hits you in the numbers, you have to catch the ball. I obviously didn't, which is why I'm no longer on the field.
3rd and 15 for St. Louis from their own 38-yard line. Again, shotgun formation, Gall with Neitzel out to the left. Gall gets a snap, throwing to the right side, coming back to the ball, knocked out, incomplete, 4th down upcoming. Good coverage there. I want to say that's Sil Winton on that far side.
Yep, Sil Winton, you're right. Sil Winton's been up top there, playing great defense for the Vixen, and that's going to be a name that if you're following around the league, you're going to want to keep your eye on. I don't know if they have trading cards out for Sil yet, but get that autograph because this being their rookie season, they're going to go far.
So 4th down upcoming. Neitzel will go back to punt, and in return duties, we'll wait to see. Low snap. Neitzel does not go for the soccer-style kick this time. Rolling out to get it. It is Winton to return. That's Tilford, rather. Excuse me. Tilford trying to race out to the 20 before she's brought down. The St. Louis crowd loves it. And we'll have 1st and 10 for Minnesota, working from their own 22-yard line.
You know, it's going to be interesting to see what Minnesota can do here. Last time Minnesota was shut out was actually against the Chicago Force back in the 2017 season in Chicago. So we'll see what they can do here. Obviously, Minnesota's a smarter team and a stronger team than they were 2 seasons ago. So we'll see what happens here. I have faith in them.
So 1st and 10 here for Minnesota from their own 22-yard line. 8:59 remaining here in this 3rd quarter. So Evans working out of the shotgun. Has one there. The pitch made to Cooper. Cooper brought down before she'll fall down there. Was able to get through a couple of tacklers before falling down to the 34-yard line. A gain of 2 for Cooper. 2nd down upcoming.
Yeah, first time Cooper's touched the ball this half. I mean, she's going to have to pick things up. I'm still curious as to why we're not seeing a lot of McGrath carrying the ball this game, though.
2nd down and 8 upcoming from the Minnesota 24-yard line. I'm with you there, too. I thought we would have seen a little bit more of Belvina McGrath. And for McGrath, coming into play today, the second leading rusher on the Minnesota Vixen, 43 carries, 286 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But the Vixen work out of the shotgun here. Evans gets a snap, looking on the right side, throwing on the right side, looking for McIsaac, knocked down, incomplete.
Yeah, McIsaac got her feet tangled there with number 7, number 7, Kenyonia Smith. And they actually kind of both went down together. So definitely a good no call there by the officials.
So that'll bring up 3rd and 8 here for Minnesota. Again, looks like some very menacing clouds off to the distance as the sun continues to set here in St. Louis.
Well, the temperature's gone down about 11 degrees, about 14 degrees since the game started. So that's definitely been a plus. We got a little bit of a breeze blowing through the press box here, which is good because we're in tight quarters here and none of us want to smell anybody else up here.
Evans, the quarterback, fakes a handoff to Vogt. Evans throwing over the middle, looking for McIsaac. In and out of the hands as Neitzel could have had an interception. 4th down.
Brings up 4th down.
And so after forcing a 3 and out of their own, the Vixen will have to punt.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, Tank Nelson, she's pulling triple duty here tonight, really, between the punts and the rushing and the little short route pass completion. So she's definitely getting her time on the field in this heat, but it's great to see that it hasn't affected her in any way yet.
Neitzel will go back. She stands at about the 50 to return this punt. And the snap, Nelson's punt. A real good one. It'll bounce at about the 50, bouncing backwards where Knightsling can field it at the 40. She's rolling out, evades a tackle, cross back. Ooh, a good tackle there, bringing Knightsling down across the 44-yard line.
Knightsling on the return.
Yeah, that was Wanda Carter from Minneapolis South High on the tackle there. She's normally a receiver, but we saw her in on special teams there, and it's a good thing that she was because she definitely prevented Knightslinger from getting in, any further yardage down the field.
So 1st and 10 for St. Louis. They are on the Minnesota side of the field as they'll start this drive from the Minnesota 45-yard line. Not their best field position of the game as their first drive of the game started at the Minnesota 39-yard line. As they appear to go with a loaded backfield. This time in the quarterback position, it's 45, Chelsea Vinson, appearing to be the quarterback. Vinson will hand it off. Met in the backfield, nice play. They'll bring her down. The ball carrier that time, all to Peter. And I'm not really sure what St. Louis was thinking there, as that's a huge loss on first down.
Definitely a big loss for St. Louis. I mean, again, it's those couple big plays that St. Louis has been able to get off the ball that have allowed these 21 points to happen. I mean, if you take away any really big plays, the game is in hand easily for Minnesota here.
Now, looks like Vinson will stay in the game as quarterback.
One thing while they're breaking huddle here, I just want to remind people once again that donate button on the bottom of Facebook Live gives you an opportunity to donate to help the program such as this be televised throughout the United States, and most importantly, to our hometown fans on Town Square Television.
Vinson finds the edge to the right side, pushed out of bounds after a gain of about 10. 3rd down upcoming.
Well, this is where Minnesota's been really stepping it up this game. They've either, A, had a great 3rd down stop and forced the St. Louis Slam to punt, or B, more times than not, they've allowed the big play that's allowed the drive to keep going. So is this going to be another 3 and out for the Slam, or is this going to be an opportunity for them to keep going? That's what we're going to find out right now.
Well, the regular offense for St. Louis has returned. Gone back into the game at quarterback. Hay in the backfield as well, with Price and Knightsling out to the left. And flank to the right side, Jamie Skinner and Alyssa Speckhouse. Is out of the shotgun on 3rd and 5 from the Minnesota 40. Gall, the quarterback, barking out instructions, gets the snap. Gall stepping up into the pocket, throwing a little too early, looking for Price, incomplete, 4th down.
Yep, Tilford on the coverage there, number 19 for Minnesota, another player that does everything that needs to be done and asked of her on the field. She's the kick returner, she's on defense, and there she had the coverage to force St. Louis to punt.
We may see St. Louis elect to keep the offensive unit on the field. That's exactly what they'll do, as they'll flank out Hay and Knightsling with an extra blocker on that far side to provide some assistance. As we have 4th and 5 here from the Minnesota 40. Miscommunication as the players are looking back to the St. Louis sideline. But Gall on the quarterback, she'll get the snap. Throwing, right side, has Price, incomplete. And again, that's another break that the Vixen need as they force a turnover on downs.
Yep, and she was hit as she was throwing that ball too. So Minnesota's defense got through to Gall and knocked her down, and she had to be helped up by her offensive lineman. So Minnesota's lucky there. They were able to take over on downs, and hopefully this time, which, we're starting to sound like a broken record here, Alex. Hopefully this time Minnesota can do something with this possession.
So with 6:28 remaining, 21-0, St. Louis up over Minnesota. Evans, the quarterback, will return to the field. Again, the Vixen have had drives into St. Louis territory, but no points as of yet to show for it. Last time these two teams played was 2 years ago, with St. Louis victorious up in Edina by not in Edina, at Simley, by a score of 35-21. Shotgun formation for Evans. Cooper in the backfield. Has some protection as well. Handoff is to Cooper. Up the middle. Gain of 2. She continues to push forward. She got through. Across to the 50-yard line. Great play by Grace Cooper.
I don't know what happened at the line of scrimmage there, but, Cooper had 1 yard, and all of a sudden there was an extra little burst of energy. Something pushed Cooper, and she was able to turn that into a first down.
So 1st and 10 for Minnesota as they have hit the midfield stripe. A great play by Grace Cooper. And she'll get the ball again. Cooper, cross midfield, finds a hole, breaking through to the 40. Fades a tackle to the 35. She can't break free of that one, though, as she's pulled down at the 33.
Cooper with looks like what was about a 17-yard carry that time gets another first down for the Minnesota Vixen. Minnesota Vixen, they're fired up right now. This is a pendulum swing that they need at this point in the game.
The Vixen approach the line again. 1st and 10 from the St. Louis 33-yard line. Cooper in the backfield with Emily Evans. Cooper again with the ball. Trying to break it out to the right side across to the 30 where she's pulled down. And after 3 really good runs by Grace Cooper, this time she's pulled down after a gain of 3 yards, 2nd down.
2nd and 7.
Yep, Cooper there. She's fired up. She's ready. You know, she's a redhead. She's Irish. She's got everything going in her favor right now.
Having a redheaded girlfriend myself, I can certainly agree with that. So 2nd and 7 here for Minnesota from the St. Louis 30-yard line. As McIsaac will come into the game, replacing McGrath. Be 2nd and 7 again, 4:53 and counting here on this 4th play of the Minnesota drive. Evans out of the shotgun, has McIsaac out to the right, along with White to the left. Handoff again on the draw play to Nelson. That's not Nelson, that's Cooper rather, excuse me. Gain of about 3 or 4 more. It'll be 3rd down.
Number 42, Cooper, the back here.
Looks like they gave her about a yard on that rush. So it is going to bring up 3rd down as you stated. Going to be 3rd and 6.
3rd down and 6.
So 3rd and 6 as Kate Murphy comes into the game. 3rd and 6 here for Minnesota from the St. Louis 29-yard line. Again, the Vixen have done well moving the ball in St. Louis territory. However, they have hit a wall seemingly every time that they've gotten deep into St. Louis territory. As a quarterback, Emily Evans out of the shotgun. Gets a snap, hands off to Cooper. Cooper hits that hole again across the 25. I don't know if she got it. Looks like she'll be a yard short. And it'll be 4th down upcoming.
Number 42.
You know, when your defense is keeping St. Louis to 3 and outs on 95% of their possessions, you just have to go for it here on 4th down, especially when you only have about 18 and a half minutes remaining in the game.
It is exactly what Minnesota will do. Evans, a quarterback, gives to Cooper again. Cooper hits the hole, breaks through a tackle to the 20, to the 15 before she's pulled down. 1st down, Minnesota.
And there we go. Just like that, Minnesota is in the red zone, which I believe is the first time this game.
It is the first time this game. 1 for 3 now on 4th down conversion attempts in this game are the Vixen. Inside of 3 minutes on the 10-yard rush by Grace Cooper. As they'll go 1st and 10 from the St. Louis 15-yard line. As Kate Murphy will step out for a minute, replaced by Melvina McGrath. It's a ball spotted on the 16-yard line. A very long drive. The eighth play of this drive right now, excuse me. As the Vixen looking to put some points on the scoreboard. As Evans, the quarterback, has Cooper in the backfield. Nelson, we get a whistle and a timeout by St. Louis with 2:22 remaining here in this 3rd quarter. The slam up by a score of 21-0.
Hey, I just want to remind people that tonight's live broadcast of the Game of the Week is brought to you by Town Square Television and Ritchie Media Group. You can follow the Vixen on Town Square Television this season on Comcast Channel 14, townsquare.tv, and on Facebook Live. And special thanks to all the community stations around the Twin Cities for their support of the Minnesota Vixen. And if you are watching us on Facebook Live, we do want to remind you once again, right on the bottom of that window, you can donate to Town Square Television to help games like this air and keep this excitement of women's professional football, of the Women's Football Alliance, coming live into your home when the Minnesota Vixen are on the road and at home.
And, of course, if you can make it out to the games, too, please consider doing so. Nothing is quite like the action and the atmosphere of Minnesota Vixen games. So we encourage, if you are able to, please come out to Kuhlman Stadium in Edina next weekend as we take on the Wisconsin Dragons. 1st and 10 for Minnesota from the St. Louis 16-yard line. Evans, the quarterback, has Cooper in the backfield with her. Segula far out to the right, sends Nelson in motion. Handoff is to Cooper. Cooper attacking, breaking through one tackle to the 10, to the 5, but she didn't quite gain it all the way as she's pushed down at the 7-yard line. Second down for the Minnesota Vixen.
Yeah, I got a little bit confused on that drive. This is one of those great fields that has the alternating stripe colors. And so I actually thought she was going into the end zone when she was approaching that last light colored, but that's actually from the 5-yard line to the goal line. So Cooper again on the carry is going to set up second down and about 2. So they don't have to score. They could get another first down and get a whole new set of downs.
Second down and 2 from the St. Louis 7-yard line. Minute 42 and counting remaining here in this one, or in the third quarter of this one. 2 in the backfield. Ball fumbled briefly and got back there. That miscommunication was just enough. The tackle for loss. Evans goes down. Third down upcoming.
You know, and that's not the first time this game that we've seen a snap that's either been too high or too low for the quarterback, Emily Evans. So this time, it unfortunately, cost Minnesota with a loss of about 4 yards on the play.
This will be the 9th play of this drive for Minnesota, which started back at their own 40-yard line. They would love to see some pay dirt here. 3rd and 6 here from the St. Louis 13-yard line. Inside a minute to go here in this third quarter as the Vixen approach the line. Evans with Cooper in the backfield. McIsaac flanked out right now. She'll come in short right next to Tank Nelson. Evans fumbles a snap briefly. She'll have to fall on it, and the whistle blows, and it'll set up a 4th down.
So sadly, it's 2 snaps in a row that just have not made it into Emily's hands. We talked about it with the passes into the numbers. We talked about it now into the snaps into the numbers. You've got to get the ball into the right position in order to have success. And two snaps in a row, Minnesota's just not making that happen. So here we are, 4th down, 4th and 12, to get a first down.
So 4th and 12 from the St. Louis 18. We may have to wait until the other side of the quarter, or they may get this playoff in time. Evans gets the snap, looking to the right side, throwing to the corner of the end zone. Contact's made. Flag is out. Pass interference.
That is definitely the right call there. Keona Smith leveled Minnesota Vixen's receiver before she had an opportunity to catch that ball. And that was Segula that got leveled by Smith before that happened.
So the pass interference will give Minnesota a first down. Segula was bumped, and the St. Louis fans don't like it. It should set up an untimed down, or no, they will play it on the other side of the third quarter, and that's how the third quarter ends, Brian. The Vixen held St. Louis to a touchdown in that quarter, however, still trail 21-0.
Well, presentation of this Game of the Week is sponsored in part by Production Truck, including all the features of a television production truck, but packed into an easy-use interface that can be downloaded on a computer. Production Truck has 4-camera replay sharing to Twitter and Facebook during a live broadcast, and broadcast branding with easy-to-use graphic packages. More info on Production Truck, powered by Blue Frame Technology, is available at blueframetech.com.
We'll be back with you in a moment for the start of the fourth quarter. This is your home for Vixen football, Town Square Television. Welcome back, everybody. St. Louis Slam 21, Minnesota Vixen 0 to start this fourth quarter of play. Right now there's a discussion between the officials where the Vixen coaching staff believe that there should be an untimed down. And I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that, because it should be a play that happens at the end of the half. That's exactly what we'll get, as now the Water folks will come out and we'll have a little break in the play here, a break in the action again. End of the third quarter. Minnesota 21, or I wish Minnesota 21, St. Louis 21, Minnesota 0. And again, Brian, the Vixen doing very well defensively. It was just that first drive that St. Louis had, just like in the first half, that led to points.
Well, and regardless of what the outcome's going to be here tonight, Alex, we can almost guarantee that these two teams are going to see each other again in a few weeks. So Minnesota's going to have to use what they've learned tonight to come back either here to St. Louis or for St. Louis to come up to Minnesota, and they're just going to have to use it. Defensively, they're doing great. You got a couple special teams errors, and right now you're just not able to make those big plays on offense, which is what Minnesota's been known for.
Hello to Melissa Kurtz. We're watching back up in Minnesota. Thank you for the comment about the redhead comment earlier. It'll be a first and goal here situation for Minnesota from the St. Louis 7-yard line on this 11th play of the drive for Minnesota as they look to get onto the scoreboard for the first time tonight. As the Vixen approach the line, Evans the quarterback. On first down, Nelson and Cooper in the backfield. Has Segula out to the left. And I believe McIsaac to the right. Hand off to Nelson. Up the middle to the 5. Well, she'll be pulled down there to the 5-yard line. We'll set up second and goal from the 5.
Yep, so she picked up 2 yards on that play, but as we know, Tank Nelson, she's one of those rushers that she gets the short chips, and all of a sudden she gets a good stiff arm or she gets a long block, and she can go for 50, 60 yards.
Second and goal from the 5. Again, Evans the quarterback with Nelson in the backfield. Nelson out to the left, Cooper in the backfield. It's Cooper. They fake the play action. Evans on the screen to Segula. Across the 5. She's trying to cut back before she's brought down. Back to the original line of scrimmage. She may have lost a yard. Third down upcoming.
And that was the first time Segula has been thrown to this half, and it's also Evans' first completion of this half. So it's odd that they didn't make this, connection earlier.
So third and goal from the 6-yard line upcoming, as McGrath will come into the game. So third and goal. Again, the first drive inside the red zone for Minnesota in this game. This 13-play drive. So far, we'll see if it continues to extend. Evans, the quarterback, with Cooper in the backfield. Has White out to the left with Segula. Sends Nelson in motion from right to left. Handoff is to Cooper, met in the backfield immediately. She got back to the line of scrimmage, maybe an additional yard after that. It'll be fourth down and goal.
So once again, we're at fourth down. We got 5 yards to go to get into the end zone, even though the scoreboard's telling us 55. But, mistakes happen on the electronic side of things all the time. But, Minnesota, they've got, what are they? They're 50% in fourth down attempts this game so far.
Yeah, they're 1 for 3 so far. So we'll see what happens. They'll go for it here. Fourth and goal from the 5-yard line. As there's some conversation here between the play as Evans will bring it in from the sideline. Clock continues to wind. 12:49 remaining here in the fourth quarter. As the Vixen trail 21-0. Evans empties out the backfield. Has McIsaac, Segula, Murphy, all the wideouts. Fumbles with the snap. Down she goes. And a turnover on downs as the Slam will take over on their own 12-yard line.
And that's the third time that we've seen that happen right now. Where Minnesota just can't get the snap into Evans' hands. I'm not sure if, I'm not trying to blame the center. I'm not trying to blame Emily. It's just, I don't know what quite's happening there, if it's a communication thing, if it's a timing thing, if it's a ball placement thing. But unfortunately, it's just coming back to bite Minnesota big.
So St. Louis will take over first and 10 from their own 12-yard line. And the Vixen have been playing well, but a 14-play drive goes by the wayside. Now the defense will be asked to step up again to give Minnesota a chance in this game, as there seems to be an issue with the clock. As 12:15 has been asked to be put on the clock. It's 21-0 your score, St. Louis over Minnesota. Again, the St. Louis Slam, aside from that touchdown drive, have resulted in a 3-and-out and a turnover on downs. And if the Vixen want a chance in this ballgame, they will have to dial that up again. Pistol formation. Gall fakes a handoff, then Hay picks it up. Hay with some holes off to the left side, across to the 20, trying to cut it back. A nice spin move to the 25 before finally she's brought down on that far side as Kate Murphy on the tackle. And it'll be first down for St. Louis.
Number 12, Taylor Hay, the ball carrier.
Yeah, Taylor Hay's been the only rusher that has touched the ball this half for St. Louis. So that on her third carry turns into it be another big one. It gives St. Louis a lot of room behind them to work with.
First and 10 for St. Louis from their own 25-yard line. We're going to have a whistle. We had a whistle. I'm not quite sure. There seems to be an issue. They want 12:02 on the clock. And so it'll be first and 10 here for St. Louis from their own 25-yard line. So first and 10 for St. Louis from their own 25-yard line. Gall in the backfield, along with Alta-Peter and Hay. As Gall gets a snap. Looking to throw on the left side, create some space there, looking for Price, incomplete. Gall knocked down on the throw, second down. And so Gall has been knocked down a number of times here in this ball game after the throw has been released. She does have two touchdown passes so far, excuse me. And so Gall will come to the line with Alta-Peter and Hay in the backfield. Price out to the right, along with Skinner, as Gall awaits the snap. Gall has a false start onto that far side as Antonio Washington, the offensive line from St. Louis, Missouri, and Harris Stowe State University, will back the slam up 5 yards. It'll be second and 15 from their own 20. Minnesota next week, they'll be home to face off against Wisconsin. Again, Sean Parker and Kelly Schultz will have the call for you. Or if you're in the area, coming out to Coolman Stadium for that one. As Gall rolls out to the right, has Alta-Peter open, caught it at the 25 to the 30 before being brought down, and a nice tackle by Sil Winton, or that's Tilly Tilford again. I make that mistake, and I apologize every single time, but Tilly Tilford on the tackle.
Well, one reason that I can see why you're making that mistake is you got Sil Winton and you've got Tilly that are both out there. They're built the same, and they play the same. They both hit hard, they both hit low, and they're going after that ball, and they're going after that tackle. So it's almost like watching the same person.
Third down, and 5 to go from the St. Louis 32-yard line for the slam. Shotgun formation, Gall in the backfield, Hay to her left. She'll send Price in motion to the right. Price on the pitch, has some space off to the left side across the 40, trying to gain some speed before she's brought down across the 50-yard line to the 48 of Minnesota, and another first down run for the slam.
And there it is. There's another one of those big plays that we've talked about that, Minnesota, they hold them, and then all of a sudden something big like that happens, and it's a first down for St. Louis.
So first and 10 upcoming here for St. Louis from the Minnesota 48-yard line. As they'll approach the line here, Gall working out of a pistol formation again, has Alta-Peter immediately to her right, Hay in the backfield. 2 out to the right, and 1 out on the far side to the left. We have not seen Nightsling in a while. Handoff is to Hay as she hits the hole to the left side before stumbling down, as I believe a Vixen got her by the shoes. Gain of about 4 or 5, second down.
Yeah, you're right. We haven't seen number 3 Nightsling out there, making a big play in quite some time. So, we did see her exchanging with some unpleasantries with her coach there a little while ago and holding her helmet. So I don't know if there's an equipment issue or if there's an injury, but I can see her standing over on the sideline still. And she is carrying her helmet in her hand.
9:55 remaining here, 21-0. St. Louis leads, 2nd and 6 from the Minnesota 44-yard line. As Vincent goes out to provide a block, moving to the right side, Alta-Peter trying to carry it forward, crosses the 40-yard line, trying to be brought down, unable to do so. Look at her go. As the ball carrier, Untitled, gets to the 30-yard line. A big bruising run and a first down here for St. Louis.
Yeah, number 18, Madison Schmatz, basically rode her out of bounds. So Madison was there, rode her to the sideline, made sure she got out of bounds before there was any more yardage picked up.
So the ball will be spotted 1st and 10 at the Minnesota 30-yard line. Loaded backfield once again, as they'll send a runner to block. Vixen gets the ball carrier, has some speed, stiff arm to the 15-yard line. And everybody's doing it out of the backfield for St. Louis tonight.
Get 13 yards. That's a slam.
And what St. Louis is doing right now is they're actually switching ball carriers on every play. You know, we go from different ball carriers, different ball carrier, different ball carrier. And Minnesota, they come up to that line on defense, and they don't know what to expect right now.
So they'll run the same play again. This time it'll be off to the right side. It's kept here by Untitled. Rolling through to the 15 before she's finally brought down by a number of Vixen to the 15-yard line. Gain of 3 or 4, second down.
Yep, number 15, Crystal Ninas, was the lead on that tackle there. So, but again, you know, they throw the ball, they get the block right off the line, and St. Louis is driving down the field.
So it'll be 2nd and 6 here from the Minnesota 17-yard line. Again, we want to encourage you, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, to hit that donation button to help us out, continue to bring the best of Minnesota Vixen and WFA football to you every single time that the Vixen take the field. Again, Untitled set up as the quarterback with Vixen in the backfield. As a snap to Vixen again, she'll keep it herself. A number of Vixen, 2 on the initial attempt there to get into the backfield. It'll be a 3rd down and 6 upcoming.
Yeah, and number 40, Ann Thyssen, was in on the tackle that time. So it's good to see Ann's name out there again. Good to see her in on that tackle. And looks like we've got 3rd down and 7 to go for St. Louis.
So 7:56 and counting remaining here. St. Louis leading by a score of 21-0. 3rd and 7 upcoming from the Minnesota 15-yard line. Gall back into the game with Hay in the backfield. Gall draws a Vixen offside. Oh, and a big play there. That will not be responded to well as Red Bryant with a shove to Hay. Again, and that'll be a 5-yard penalty on the offsides. It'll set up a 3rd and 1.
Well, I don't know, Alex, if you've had an opportunity to ever talk with number 96, Cynthia Red Bryant, before game or after game or anything. But you see a pure muscle athlete out there, and I can tell you she's one of the sweetest women you will ever meet. I've run into her at the grocery store, comes up, gives me a big bear hug, and just a great person to deal with off the field.
Gall out of the shotgun. 1 out to the left, 1 in the backfield. It's Hay, and 2 out to the right. As Gall gets a snap. Looking over the middle, throwing that back corner fade, incomplete as the Slam fans want a flag. They're going to get one, though, for a late hit in the backfield. And it'll be a personal foul against Minnesota. That'll be an automatic first down.
The penalty results. First down!
So the ball will be spotted. They'll mark it out. And they'll step it to, should be right about the, yes, it's the first down, but where are you putting the ball?
I think that's what they're trying to decide right now.
Should be at the 5-yard line. While we have the time here, a story about Red Bryant. I was watching an interview. I can't remember the news organization that did it, but it was an interview with a number of the Vixen players, and they asked what was your favorite part of each of the of playing Minnesota Vixen football, and Red's enthusiastic answer was hitting.
Well, we saw right there that she does love to hit, and she had that sack earlier this game also. So,
first and goal from the 5. Spun Hay into the backfield. Nice defensive play by the Vixen for a tackle for loss. A couple of Vixen get back there. I think Sil Winton was there first.
Yep, that was number 32, Sil Winton on the tackle there for a loss of yardage, on the play. So we're going to be at 2nd and 10 now from the 10-yard line.
14th play of the drive upcoming for St. Louis. 2nd and goal from their own 10-yard line. In a pistol formation, Undefeated to the right, Hay in the backfield. And the handoff again to Hay, and again the Vixen. Oh, I faked for it again. Undefeated in and out of the hands, incomplete. That play action. It's a good thing the Vixen are so smart and so patient, because I have not been, and I've been fooled by that play action many times tonight.
I got my own tally on my stat sheet here for you, and I believe that's the 4th time that they've got you with that play.
Oh, well, hopefully they don't run it again. Either way, it'll be 3rd and goal here from the Minnesota 10-yard line. The 15th play of this drive, which has run 6 minutes off of the clock. We get a whistle. And we're going to get a timeout here by the Vixen. That'll be their second of the first of this half. And while we have a break, some things we'd like to share with you.
Definitely. Vixen fans, did you know that the Vixen's official integrative sports care provider is Northwestern Health Sciences University? Because peak performance begins with consistent integrative care. Coverage of this game of the week is brought to you in part by Northwestern, located in Bloomington, Minnesota. More information is available at nwhealth.edu. nwhealth.edu. And also, you, as a viewer, can help sponsor Minnesota Vixen football by clicking on that donate button right there on the bottom of your Facebook Live page.
Well, we certainly want to encourage that. And again, next week when we are home to the Wisconsin Dragons, we want you to come out to Koolman Stadium, support these hard-working athletes out on the field, so that way you can be a part of the Vixen phenomena just as much as we have been.
And actually, that game next week is going to be a Randy Shaver tackle cancer game. In Minnesota, in the fall, all the high schools get together and they have their tackle cancer games. Minnesota Vixen are stepping on board this year, and they're going to give Randy his first tackle cancer game in women's professional football.
Well, we certainly like to see that. And again, congratulations to Randy Shaver for beating cancer a second time.
Yeah, he's a great person. I've had an opportunity to talk with both him and Ryan Shaver. Ryan Shaver was at the Vixen home opener, shot some footage for us, which made the 10 o'clock news that night. So, I mean, not quite the quality we get with Town Square Television, of course, but, we'll give him a pass.
So home next week to Wisconsin, then they'll close their season out in the regular season against Iowa in 2 weeks from today down in Des Moines.
Which you and I will both be at that game.
Yes, we will. Very excited to travel to the first time the Vixen will play the Iowa Phoenix. As now we have a timeout St. Louis, so that'll be their 3rd and final of this second half.
St. Louis.
Well, tonight's live broadcast of the Game of the Week is brought to you by Town Square Television and the Ritchie Media Group. You can follow the Vixen on Town Square Television this season on Comcast Channel 14, townsquare.tv, or Facebook Live. Also, special thanks to all the community stations around the Twin Cities for their support of Minnesota Vixen women's football.
And again, while we have the moment, we do want to thank you for viewing tonight's broadcast, however you have been able to do so, whether that be on townsquare.tv, MinnesotaVixen.com, or MNVixen.com, excuse me, or those of you who have found your way here from the Women's Football Alliance website. Again, a very busy Week 8, number of teams on bye. However, Week 9 will resume next week, and there will be many more important playoff matchups to go. Mile High, the only team so far who has clinched a playoff spot. However, St. Louis, Minnesota, and Houston certainly well on their way, and St. Louis can wrap one up tonight. Meanwhile, 3rd and goal upcoming from the Minnesota 10, the 15th play of this St. Louis drive. Gall at the shotgun with Hay in the backfield. She'll try to draw the Vixen offside. This time she'll get the snap. Hay throwing to the right side, looking for Price in the corner of the end zone. Great defense there as receiver and corner met at the same time. Incomplete. 4th down for St. Louis.
And once again, Tilly Tilford showing why she's one of the better corners in women's football right there as she breaks that play up.
Well, with the budding rivalry that is St. Louis and Minnesota, you certainly would probably, I would say, see the field goal unit stay off. It looks like they will go for the field goal here. Knightsling, the field goal kicker. She's 1 for 3 entering play today. Her first attempt at one in this game. She does have a great leg from when I saw her warming up earlier this afternoon. Knightsling, her drive is up, and it is good. That kick good from 28 yards, and with that, 24-0 with 6:27 remaining here in this football game. And so really, Brian, the story of the game has been Kaylee Nutzling, who has accounted for, aside from the extra points, 21 of the 24 St. Louis points.
Yeah, Kaylee Nutzling, I really was not very familiar with her coming down here for this game, but she has impressed me as a great player. She can return kicks, she can catch balls, she can rush the ball. I mean, she's an all-around exceptional player, and I would not be surprised to see her at the All-Star game in Colorado in the end of July, or middle of July.
So a 16-play drive that traveled 78 yards results in a 3-point field goal and extends the score to 24-0. At this point, we have a couple of receivers back to try to get this one. Again, as the night fades, it's becoming a little humid here. Difficult to see the numbers at times, but it is Segula in the backfield looking to return. Unfortunately, the arm is blocking the other number at this time. As Nutzling winds into one. It's picked up, bobbled briefly before the Vixen are able to pick it up again, as that's Vogt on the return. Vogt cutting across to the 30-yard line before being wrapped up and thrown down right across the 30-yard line. That's where the Vixen will have it, 1st and 10 from their own 30-yard line.
Yeah, so Minnesota, they've got 6 minutes and 14 seconds to get something done here. The last time Minnesota was shut out was June 17th of 2017 when they were down in Dallas, who's no longer part of the WFA.
So we'll see what the Vixen choose to do here. Again, it's been a very, very good night running the football with, again, the three-headed monster of Tank Nelson, Belvina McGrath, and Grace Cooper. However, McGrath hasn't been quite as involved. I think everything's okay up here in the press box.
Our producer / director, Tom Ritchie, kind of scared us with the movement of his chair there.
Evans with the bubble screen out to Segula. No gain on that play, 2nd down.
That was actually Vogt.
Oh, it was Vogt.
Yep, 81 Vogt with that catch.
No gain.
So Edry Vogt with the first catch of her night. Goes for no gain, 2nd and 10 upcoming from the Minnesota 31-yard line. So again, Minnesota will face off against Wisconsin. They can effectively end Wisconsin's season a week from today. Again, if you're watching on Facebook Live, that donation button, it's there for you if you want to continue to boost the coverage that we have been doing for you. Evans throws here, looking a nice completed pass there to Segula. Segula across the 45 as she broke a tackle to the 50-yard line. That was a very nice catch and a run there by Kaya Segula, one of our favorite rookies from this Vixen team who has been a threat offensively when the ball has been thrown.
Well, I remember you and I were down in Kansas City for the first game of the season there, April 6th, and Kaya comes up to me before the game, and she wanted to make sure that we could pronounce her name correctly because she knew we would be saying it this season. So, Kaya, you well played.
1st and 10 for Minnesota from the St. Louis 49-yard line. Evans out of the shotgun. She'll drop back to pass as Cooper in protection. Nice pass over the middle looking for Nelson, and she got incomplete. I thought she was going to hold on, and you see there Nelson rolling around. She could not quite hold on. We'll get a timeout here as Nelson remains on the turf.
An opportunity at the last home game. I talked to Tank Nelson's parents. They like to make cookies for people and things like that. And they actually live in South Dakota. So they really appreciate when we televise these road games. For the home games, they make the drive to Coleman Field or the 1 week down to Farmington. But for the road games, when you're in South Dakota, it makes it that much longer of a drive, or even getting to an airport to hop on a plane, because what many people don't realize is it costs a little bit of money to travel and to go with all these teams, which is why we have sponsors. So I want to thank, Blue Frame Technology. Coverage of this game of the week is sponsored in part by Blue Frame Technology, the premier end-to-end streaming provider for sports organizations across the United States. With over 600 clients in the NCAA Division I, Division II, and Division III conferences, along with other sports leagues as well. More info about Blue Frame's end-to-end solution for production management and distribution for video streaming is available at blueframetech.com.
Meanwhile, Tank Nelson able to walk off the field on her own power. Again, adding to another of a number of injuries that the Vixen have sustained tonight. You see Connor Joe Lewis on the play here first. Evans throwing to the right side, looking incomplete as the pass was intended for Cooper, third down. But we see now Connor Joe Lewis back onto the sideline in street clothes, this time with crutches. And you certainly hope the best for Tank Nelson as well, as the Vixen will be looking at a 3rd and 10 from the St. Louis 49-yard line.
Yeah, and I'm looking across the field trying to see where number 34, Tank Nelson, is right now. And she's actually standing right between McGrath and Sarah Sturr on the sideline there. Dr. Mack walked right past her, didn't stop, didn't say anything to her. So I would guess that Nelson's going to be okay.
3rd and 10 from the St. Louis 49-yard line. 5:03 remaining. 24-0. The St. Louis Slam lead the Minnesota Vixen. As Evans empties the backfield, has White and Cooper and Segula flanked from left to right. She'll send White in motion to the right. She'll get the snap now. Evans looking for the left side, looking incomplete, in and out of the hands on the interception attempt there by Jamie Skinner in the backfield. And in coverage, Skinner unable to hold on to that. 4th and 10 upcoming.
Yeah, so once again, it was just out of the reach of Grace Cooper, and Minnesota looks like they're keeping the offense on the field. I mean, you've got just under 5 minutes left with 4:58 remaining on the clock and not a lot of time. But at this point, you're playing for pride.
4th and 10 as the Vixen approach the line from the St. Louis 49-yard line. They'll have 2 out to the left. Again, exact same formation with White, Vogt, and then Segula on the left side as Evans gets the snap. Looking for White, incomplete, just a little too far over her head. And that'll be another turnover on downs for Minnesota, as they are 1 for 5 on 4th down attempts tonight. And another turnover on downs, first down for St. Louis from their own 49-yard line.
Yeah, so St. Louis, as you stated, there's 4:56 remaining on the clock. They're going to take over. And speaking of taking over, you can take over control of Town Square Television by donating and clicking on that button on the bottom of the screen when you're watching on Facebook Live. Now that's a professional segue right there.
So 1st and 10 here for St. Louis from their own 49-yard line. 4:56 remaining as the Slam lead 24-0. St. Louis with 0 timeouts remaining. Minnesota with 2. Gall in the backfield. And she'll send out 3 out to the left. The handoff going up the middle. Nice defensive play there. She was able to break through. I thought they had her, and now she continues to run up the field. And a nice run there by Candace Watkins from Florissant, Missouri. And for a first down for St. Louis. For Watkins, 18 carries, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns coming into play today. That's her first carry of the game. And first down.
Yeah, you think with as good of a season as Watkins has been having that we would have called her name long before the final 5 minutes of this game. But St. Louis is just showing that they have multiple threats in their backfield, and they're ready to use them at any given moment.
So 1st and 10 for St. Louis from the Minnesota 35-yard line. Again, Gall in the backfield, exact same formation as they ran before. They'll send the receiver in the motion to the right as the ball comes here again, this time for Watkins. Watkins trying to break through before she's pushed out of bounds into the Minnesota sideline. She got to, we're going to have a hold. This will back him up.
Thyssen was held in the backfield there. She was chasing Watkins down, and I saw Thyssen's shirt getting pulled behind her, and so did the referee, and he threw the flag appropriately.
So now the official signal will be made, and that'll back up St. Louis. It'll be a 10-yard penalty. We'll set the ball at the 45-yard line, so it'll be 2nd and 20. No, 1st and 20. That's right, yeah. So 1st and 20. They'll spot the ball at the 50-yard line. Wasn't aware holding was a 15-yard penalty, but...
Well, again, we played modified NCAA rules, so
it'll be 1st and 10 or 1st and 25 from right at midfield.
1st and 15. 25, you're right.
Gall out of the backfield. She'll get the snap as the blitz comes. Throws again, is complete to Watkins. Watkins finally shoved down by a couple of Vixen after a gain of 5 to the 45-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 20.
Yep, but number 18, Madison Schmatz, was in on that tackle, a Vixen player that's been on the league for many, many years. You know, Vixen, looks like, see a flag, resulting in a first down. Oh, there we go. The referee fixed his call, so it was another holding call against St. Louis, so it's going to back him up even further.
It's odd that he's doing. Is he doing this for personal foul? He's doing this for hold, or is he doing this? Because either way, that's not necessarily, and we don't want to make fun of officials, of course, but it's an odd that he's close between the two of them. So either way, that'll continue to back St. Louis up. It'll be 1st and
35.
As you heard the PA announcer next to us say, it'll be 1st and 35. And no, it'll be further than that. No, it will be. Yeah, 1st and 36.
1st and 36. Yeah, we're just waiting for the down marker person to change it here to 1st, and he's reaching up to do that now, it looks like. But
so 1st and 36 from the St. Louis 39-yard line. Gall out of the shotgun, has Watkins in the backfield with her. Again, this Vixen crowd still proud of their Vixen, making some noise. Receiver in motion. Gall throwing out to the left side again. Some nice defensive coverage made there. And a nice deflection by Caitlin Hill to knock that ball down. 2nd down.
Well, as I stated a little while ago, Hill had her first interception, pick 6 last weekend when when Iowa was in town. And so that's going to bring up 3rd down. So
it'll be 3rd down and 39. No, that can't be right. 3rd down and 32 from the 39. Too many 30s that we've been having here. Either way, Gall out of the shotgun. Waiting the snap. Has 2 out to the left, 1 to the right. As Watkins again in the backfield. A young sprinter has made it onto the track. As Gall gets a snap. Throwing onto the left side, looking too far as the intended pass for Chelsea Clay, incomplete, 4th down.
And that was Winton on the coverage there as well. So, 4th down, St. Louis is obviously going to go for the punt this time. I mean, their defense is showing that they know how to play this game against Minnesota's offense. And
so we'll send the punt team out and back out to do the punting duties again, Kaylee Knightsling. And back to receive for Minnesota. I believe it'll be Tilly Tilford. That's exactly who it will be. As Knightsling gets the kick. It's a line drive. Fielded there by Vogt, rather, out of the return duties to the 30, down to the 32, the 33. And Andrew Vogt with a nice little return there. And it'll be 1st and 10 Minnesota from their own 34-yard line with 3:09 remaining in this football game.
And we want to remind people once again, if you are watching the game on Facebook Live, or even if you're watching on townsquare.tv, head on over to Facebook Live, find Townsquare TV's Facebook page, and you can click to donate money to help continue programming such as this when the Vixen are on the road.
So 1st and 10 for Minnesota as Emily Evans not turned the ball over tonight. Only 1 turnover in the game, and that was on St. Louis, a fumble way back in the first quarter.
There was also that interception.
Too, yes, of course. Evans thrown over the middle, looking for Nelson, complete across the 50. What a play! Tank Nelson to the 40, she pushed down to the 35. What a shoulder there by Tank Nelson.
That is just the play that Minnesota needs right now. So the clock will stop, give them long enough to set the chains. We also will watch for the referee to wind the clock again. But Minnesota is showing that there's still some fight in them in this game.
It's still a 3-possession game if you went for the touchdown and a 2-point conversion each time as the clock will wind. Evans, the quarterback. Low snap, she'll pick it up. Throwing to the left side, looking for Nelson again. Incomplete, just fumbled with it just a little bit as it'll be incomplete, 2nd down. And slow to get up, too. We do have a Vixen. We'll have a timeout here for the injured Vixen. I couldn't quite see the number, not sure who. Have another timeout for an injured player with 2:54 remaining. 24-0, St. Louis leading.
scanning the sideline, trying to see if I can figure out who it could be. We got water coming out onto the field for the players, of course, which is very important. Hopefully it's more of a dehydration or a cramp thing and not necessarily an injury.
St. Louis got on the scoreboard first. It was their first offensive drive after a turnover on downs by the Vixen in their own territory. And a 3-yard or a touchdown reception by number 3, Kaylee Knightsling, as that's Erin McIsaac working her way back to the sideline. Again, she's been doing an excellent job all over the field tonight. You certainly don't want to see her night end that way. It was a Knightsling touchdown on the first St. Louis drive that put them on the scoreboard 7-0. Then a couple of drives later, the 92-yard punt return touchdown by Knightsling that gave them the 14-0 lead. Then a series of punts, and that ended the first half tie, or 14-0, with the Vixen trailing. Then again, on that first play of the second half, it was a Knightsling 57-yard touchdown reception that gave them the 21 lead. A field goal added later. Nice catch for the touchdown!
And that's just what Minnesota needed. That's Kaya Segula, number 11, going into the end zone. And that would be her 4th touchdown this season for Segula. Minnesota is not going to quit. They're not going to allow themselves to be shut out.
35-yard touchdown reception for Kaya Segula. 24-6. The score here. And, of course, still a 3-possession game as the Vixen will try to make it a 2-possession game as they'll attempt the 2-point conversion. So we'll see what they choose to do here. Again, the ball spotted at the 2-yard line. Nelson and Cooper in the backfield with Evans. There's a handoff to Cooper up the middle. 2-point conversion is good. And it'll be 24-8 with 2:47 remaining in this football game. On the very nice touchdown reception from Emily Evans through the air to Kaya Segula. And the Vixen, 10th overall in Tier 2 in passing yards, but it's a passing touchdown that gets them on the scoreboard for the first time in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, Minnesota does not have a lot of passing touchdowns this season. In fact, I believe it was 3 weeks ago where they finally got their first one. So for the first 2 games, they had plenty of points on the board, but not a touchdown in the air.
24-8 is your score. And we'll see if the Vixen are able to execute the onside kick. 2:47 remaining, 2 timeouts left in Minnesota's back pocket.
0 timeouts for St. Louis, as you touched on earlier.
And again, the Vixen taking the time to stand on the sideline to communicate how to execute this onside kick and give the Vixen another chance. And it'll be Tank Nelson to kick this one off. Again, the ball must travel at least 10 yards before a Vixen player can touch it.
And you notice St. Louis, they have all their big players right there at that 10-yard mark. So they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that ball lands in their hands.
Or it's not Nelson, rather. It's Katie Muller to do the kicking here. So Muller to attempt the onside kick for Minnesota. And she'll kick it right on the ground, bounces right into the hands before it's able to be continued to push forward. St. Louis will take over on the kickoff return. It'll be Kimberly Kinsella who got that one. And it'll be 1st and 10 for St. Louis from the Minnesota 42-yard line. And with 2 timeouts, that might be all she wrote for the Vixen.
Yeah, Minnesota came down here knowing that this was going to be a tough game, that they were going to have to really play hard. I mean, they spent a lot of time this week watching film. They learned a few things, but you can only learn so much watching film on a team. More often than not, you have to get onto their field. You have to see how they execute based on how you're lining up across from them.
So 1st and 10 for St. Louis from the Minnesota 42-yard line. Gall still the quarterback. She'll get the snap, hand off to Watkins. Watkins across the 40. Number of Vixen push her down there.
Sil Witten right there again. So.
And the timeout called by Minnesota. They have 1 remaining, 2:32 here to go. Assuming the score holds. Again, we don't know the score of the Houston game right now as they are on the road at the County Camo. Assuming that were to hold, right now Minnesota would travel to St. Louis in the playoffs to play the Slam right here again on June the 15th. But again, if Houston starts to win out, then all of a sudden the Vixen could be on the road to Mile High.
Yeah, they could be. They could be on the road to Mile High, which no matter what you look at, Minnesota is going to probably be on the road for the first week of the playoffs. So they're going to have to get home. They're going to have to rest up, get the players healthy again. We do have one final score in so far. The DC Divas closed out their home schedule with a 58-28 win over Columbus.
And St. Louis will be at Cincinnati and then home to Columbus to close out their regular season. And after a year off in the WFA, they certainly have returned with passion and fever as they have been one of the dominant forces in this tier.
Well, we'll see what happens next year. The Madison Blaze took off this year in the hopes that they can rebuild and get bigger and want to come back next year. So we're excited for the 2020 season to see what happens in WFA football.
Watkins gets the handoff on 2nd down and 9 from the 41. She gets across to the 37-yard line. And another timeout called by Minnesota. That's their last one. 2:22 remaining.
We talk about Women's Football Alliance, WFA football. They're obviously on Twitter, they're on Facebook, but this is actually their 10th season of WFA football. So congratulations on the WFA for 10 successful seasons. Last year's championship down in Kennesaw, Georgia. I had an opportunity to be doing what you're doing for the championship game. I prefer what I'm doing now. It's a little less talking, and not that I don't like to hear myself talk, of course. And speaking of hearing me talk, right now I'm going to let you hear me talk about pressing that donate button on the bottom of your Facebook Live page so that you can help contribute and keep these broadcast games going when the Minnesota Vixen are on the road.
Next week, your Vixen will be home to the Wisconsin Dragons. Again, Sean Parker and Kelly Schultz will be with you on the call for that one. And then Brian and I will rejoin you in Des Moines 2 weeks from today as the Vixen close out the regular season against the Iowa Phoenix. Gall, again, out of the shotgun. She'll get the snap, a low snap, and they'll do the end around here. Some trick play to Danielle Price. Price breaks through the edge across the 20 to the 10 to the 5, and a salt in the wound touchdown for Danielle Price. 27. That's still not right. 30-8, they lead.
And we do have a St. Louis Slam player down on the field injured right now as well. So one thing that I've learned over the years is in a play like that, rather than go for the touchdown, you go to the 1-yard line and you sit down. Let the clock just wind out the game type situation. But that's just something that I've picked up over the years myself. So what do I know?
So a 36-yard end-around score for Danielle Price as the Slam open up the playbook. We do have a Slam player injured who is down.
Well, hey, I want everybody to know that tonight's live broadcast of Game of the Week is brought to you by Town Square Television and the Ritchie Media Group. You can follow the Minnesota Vixen on Town Square Television this season on Comcast Channel 14, townsquare.tv, and on Facebook Live. Also, special thanks to all the community stations around the Twin Cities for their support of the Minnesota Vixen.
2:12 remaining as the end-around touchdown extends the lead to 30-8. St. Louis leading as we await the St. Louis training staff looking at the Slam player who is down.
So, Alex, let's say that you're Minnesota, and let's say you're going to have to be back here in 4 weeks, okay? What can you take away from this game to better prepare yourself for the likes of a number 12, a number 88, a number 42, who they get their hand on the ball? Or most importantly, what can you do to stop Netzling?
Well, I think what you have to do is you have to be able to answer the Slam punch for punch. And honestly, when we look at it, the Vixen just have not been able to execute offensively when we look at it tonight. Again, 1 for 5 is Minnesota on fourth down conversion attempts is what I'm trying to say. And unfortunately, if you're trying to go 1 for 4 on those fourth down conversions, that's not really going to last for you in the long run. So they need to be able to come out here and execute, assuming that they come here to St. Louis again in a couple of weeks.
I mean, because you really can't say that Tank Nelson and Grace Cooper had an off game. They put up pretty much the same yardage that they've been putting up week in and week out this season for the Vixen.
Danielle Thompson on to attempt the extra point. She's been perfect 3 for 3 so far. And with that, she'll be 32 for 32 on the season. As we certainly hope to play this one out without any injuries of passion, so to speak, to come out as this. And so Minnesota will get another chance with 2:12 remaining in the fourth quarter. 31-8, St. Louis leading.
And with no timeouts left, Minnesota's going to have to take to the air. They're going to have to go for McGrath. They're going to have to go for Segula and just see what they can do.
So we'll see what the Vixen are able to do. Segula back to return this kickoff along with Tilford. Vogt in short field position too. She's been able to field some balls on the kick return as well. And it'll be Netzling to kick off. Or no, she will leave it on the tee. This time for Taylor Hay. And so is the slam spread out across the field. And what's become really a beautiful night here in St. Louis.
Still too muggy for me.
And Hay runs up to the ball, kicks it a line drive. It'll be fielded by Vogt. Vogt loses it briefly before picking it back up. As Vogt hitting off to the left side before, she lost the football, but I think she got it right back away. And it'll be 1st and 10 for Minnesota from their own 38-yard line.
Yep, Vogt did indeed recover her own fumble there. So Minnesota is going to get one last drive here for this game with 2:02 left.
So Emily Evans will try to navigate and steer this team down the field. For one last time tonight, 2:02 remaining. Again, next week, home to Wisconsin, then at Iowa to close out the regular season. The playoffs begin the week of the 15th. The only other team that can catch Minnesota would be Wisconsin, but Minnesota would have to lose out, and Wisconsin would have to win out in order for the Dragons to make the playoffs. As Evans gets a snap, nice throw to the right side. It's complete, so try to move forward there. Continues to get down. She got brought through. Belvina McGrath working on that right side, breaking across to the 30 before she's pushed out of bounds.
And the best thing is she was pushed out of bounds, so that's going to stop the clock for Minnesota with 1:49 remaining. Move the chains. You've got the time. You've got the 40 seconds to sit there and decide what you want to do. You don't have to make any rash decisions. Evans comes over, talks to Coach McCulley. That was White that came over and talked to Coach McCulley. She's going to bring the play into Evans so she knows what to do next.
So 1st and 10 from the St. Louis 30-yard line. The clock stopped at 1:49. So the Vixen trail by 25-yard line. As Evans, the quarterback, will send 3 out to the left, 1 out to the right. Evans gets a snap. Looking to the right side, trying to beat, incomplete as she was looking for a receiver on the far side. I want to say that was Amy Mugas way back there, but I could not quite see that number as the Vixens start to roll through some of their bench. Incomplete either way, 2nd down.
Nope, that was Kaya Segula, number 11 there, that was just running all the way back. She just enough angle on her jersey that it made it hard for us to pick that up.
So it'll be 2nd down and 10 from the St. Louis 29-yard line. As in the second half, the Vixen have scored their only points of the game. It was on their last drive, a 35-yard touchdown pass from Evans to Segula to get the Vixen on the scoreboard. We may see that connection try to connect again. Evans out of the shotgun. She'll get the snap. She drops back. Looking to throw it over the middle. Looking for White off the reaching hand of White. Incomplete, 3rd down.
This is incomplete. Brings up 3rd down.
Yeah, so here we go, Minnesota. 3rd down, 10 yards to go, 4th quarter, 1:39 left. They're obviously going to throw it again here, and if nothing happens here, you're going to throw it again on 4th down. I mean, you've got to go for the end zone here. I mean, I think Emily can do it. She's got the arm. She can at least get them to about the 10, maybe the 5-yard line, and rely on those yards after the catch to put the receiver in.
So 3rd and 10. for Minnesota from the St. Louis 29-yard line. And she'll spread out the receivers, 3 to the left, 1 to the right. We have Segula, Nelson, and then White to the left. There's Evans. The play action looking for White. Incomplete. A little bit over the head again. That'll force a 4th down upcoming.
Brings up 4th down.
So here we go. Here's the game. Minnesota's either going to convert or we're going to give it back to St. Louis, and they're just going to kneel this one out.
Minnesota does not have any timeouts. Neither team has any timeouts remaining with 1:36 left. And again, the officials do keep that play clock in the back of their head so they know that if a play does take too long. So we'll keep an eye on that. There's a play clock here at St. Mary's High School. And so we'll wait to see what happens here as Evans out of the shotgun. 3 out to the left, 1 to the right. In the backfield is Nelson. As Evans gets a snap, bubble screen to Segula. Segula finds a hole across the 20, trying to cut back to the 10. And she's pulled down there, and a nice play that's worked a number of times tonight for the Vixen. Kaya Segula, gain of 18 yards, 1st down Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota's going to have to get up the line there. The clock's going to stop just long enough for the referees to reset the chains and set the ball, and then it's going to start winding right away. So
as the clock begins to wind here, Evans out of the shotgun again. Segula out to the left. Evans gets a snap, throws here on the completion to the near side. Did she break the plane? No, she's short.
So it's going to be 2nd down in inches.
2nd down. Roll to go.
As that's McGrath who got the completion there. There's a slam player down. But it'll be 2nd and goal to go. Inside a minute to go in this football game. 2nd and goal from the inch mark. Run up the middle, Nelson. Trying to push forward, but the Slam are able to stop her there.
Minnesota's going to have to get off this pile. They're going to have to unbury everybody really quickly. Clock's winding. We got 42 seconds left remaining in the game. Emily's coming over to find out what she's got to do. She looks like they're going to go for just one final play here.
So Evans will run the play back in now with 30 seconds remaining. Again, with the win, St. Louis will improve to 6-0, and Minnesota will fall to 5-1, suffering their first loss on the season. Their only regular season loss a year ago also came in the state of Missouri, but on the other side of it at Kansas City. As Evans gives it to Nelson. Nelson, last play of the game, up the middle, touchdown, Minnesota. Tank Nelson gets the Vixen on the scoreboard. Clock stops with 9 seconds left. They'll try the 2-point conversion. And for Nelson, that will be her 11th touchdown of the season, pacing the Vixen in all touchdown categories.
You know, and it feels good to get that double-digit score on the board for Minnesota. You know, they got 14 points right now. Looks like we got an injured player down.
Well, you don't like to see that, too, with a game decided and 9 seconds left.
Looks like it's number 87, Janessa White, that was the injured player. She is walking off under her own power, though.
So with 9 seconds left, the Vixen will attempt the 2-point conversion. As the last time that the two teams played each other. 2 years ago, the same weekend, Memorial Day weekend. The score that time was 35-21. It's going to be very close to that tonight. As the play comes in. As Evans, the quarterback out of the shotgun, has Cooper and Nelson in the backfield. Ball spotted at the 2 on the 2-point conversion. Evans gets the snap, hands up to Nelson. She'll push the pile forward. I don't think she got there. She got to the 1 as the try is unsuccessful. And with that, the score reads 31-14 St. Louis with 9 seconds remaining.
You know, one thing Minnesota can come out of here with is they were able to score. In fact, they put up more points against St. Louis than any other team has done so far this season. So they were able to come down here. They found the end zone multiple times, so it's not like, you know, any field goals or anything like that. They went for the 2-point conversion the first time. They were successful on that. Second time here, they didn't quite fell a couple inches short of punching that in. So Minnesota can look at this, and if we have to travel back down here in 4 weeks, we know what we're going to need to do.
The other thing I would say, too, Brian, is looking at it is that the Vixen had sustained drives of 8, 9, 10 plays that, again, they just were not able to capitalize by putting the ball in the end zone.
Right. Along with that, too, not only was Minnesota able to sustain their drives, they were also able to hold St. Louis to 3 and outs multiple times throughout the game and force punts.
So the Vixen will be on to, looks like they'll attempt the onside kick again, I believe. At least that's how the Slam are set up to receive it. As the kick goes high into the backfield. Gall back to get there, and falling down there is Price, as she'll follow the 32-yard line. Clock winds and stops at 7 seconds. So there'll be a chance for the Slam to take a knee. St. Louis, they will be at Cincinnati next week before finishing out their regular season here at home against Columbus. And I expect victory formation here from St. Louis. Meanwhile, the Vixen next Saturday will be home to the Wisconsin Dragons. As Brian mentioned earlier in our broadcast tonight, it'll be the Tackle Cancer Night. Randy Shaver doing the coin toss. And so victory formation. Some good-natured heckling and trash talking going on in the stands right now. The ball is kneeled by Gall, and that will do it as the Slam are victorious here tonight in St. Louis by a final of 31-14. And Brian, another game against the Slam, and unfortunately the same result.
Yeah, a little different view for this one. Definitely a little more humid, a little more hot. While they're on their way out the door, though, I do want to thank the timekeeper for St. Louis, the public address announcer for St. Louis, and the other people that were up here in the box for us, because a lot of times we have spotters that help us to see things on the field, and we unfortunately didn't have that luxury with us tonight. But these gentlemen and this young lady here, if we missed something, they were right there with the information for us, and we appreciate that very much, along with the viewers at home. So thank you all.
While we have a moment, we're going to step out. We'll be right back to recap this one. This is your home for Minnesota Vixen football, Town Square Television, and mnvixen.com. Well, welcome back, everybody. Again, the St. Louis Slam victorious by the score of 31-14 here from St. Louis. Again, the Slam improved to 6-0, and the Minnesota Vixen fall to a score of 5-1. Let's talk briefly about how this game broke down. The Vixen got the ball first. 6-play drive resulted in a turnover on downs. Then the Slam, with that short field, were able to take that and immediately score on the Nightsling touchdown reception. This would not be the last time that we called her name tonight, as she was very active. A Minnesota punt on the next drive, then a St. Louis fumble gave the Vixen some good field position. Unfortunately, they stalled out right at about the 40-yard line and had to punt that football again. On that punt, Nightsling, a 92-yard punt return touchdown, extended the lead to 14-0. Then a Minnesota punt, a St. Louis drive ended with an interception by Connor Joe Lewis. Then Minnesota took that drive and they had to punt. St. Louis had to punt again. Minnesota punt. And that ended the play in the first half. To start the second half, St. Louis, a 57-yard reception for a touchdown again by Kaylee Nightsling. It gave the Slam the 21-0 lead. Then the Vixen on their next drive turned it over on downs, followed by another series of punts by each side. Then St. Louis with a 27-yard field goal by Nightsling, as she accounted for 24 of the first. As we hear the announcement here. Then another turnover on downs, a punt, a 35-yard touchdown from Emily Evans to Kaya Segula, getting the Vixen on the scoreboard. Then on the next St. Louis drive, the end-around 36-yard touchdown rush by Danielle Price. And on the last drive of the game, the last drive that mattered, a 1-yard rushing touchdown by number 34, Tank Nelson, to make it 14-0. Or not 14-0, rather. Excuse me, I got distracted. 31-14, the Vixen fall tonight.
Yeah, Emily Evans had a great night. I mean, her numbers in the second half were 6 for 19. She was 11 for 32, throughout the entire game. She had no interceptions. I think what hurt the Emily Evans the most tonight was actually those moments when the snap didn't quite reach her hand as they should. You take away, I think it was 4 times that happened. If you were able to put that ball into her hand and allow her to release that ball, we could have had another first down. We could have had another touchdown. You never know what's going to happen in those situations.
And so the Vixen will regroup, head back home against Memorial Day weekend. If you've traveled with us, we want to thank you for traveling and supporting the Vixen on the road. Next week, they'll be home, as we've said before, to the Wisconsin Dragons, looking to go for the season sweep, 3-0 against them. And then their last regular season game will be at Iowa on June the 8th. And again, Brian, the more we look at it, the more likely it appears that the Vixen will be on the road, either back here in St. Louis or in Denver at Mile High, for those playoffs when they start up on the 15th.
Well, if we were looking at the weather forecast alone, I guess personally I'd rather go to Denver in a couple weeks than come back to here. I mean, don't get me wrong, St. Louis has got the barbecue. They've got the brewery, but this humidity is a little bit too much that I can handle. And I want to remind everyone that tonight's live broadcast of the Game of the Week is brought to you by Town Square Television and the Ritchie Media Group. You can follow the Vixen on Town Square Television this season on Comcast Channel 14, townsquare.tv, and also on Facebook Live. If you are watching us on Facebook Live, make sure you find that little button under your screen there that says donate, and help donate to keep these games live on the air. It takes a big production crew to get everybody down here to St. Louis for this game. It's going to take a big crew to get everybody down to Des Moines in a couple weeks. And then after that, we want to bring the playoffs to you as well. I mean, there's nothing more exciting than women's football except for women's playoff football.
Well, we want to thank everybody that came down here tonight for the Silver Fox, Tom Ritchie, and all the wonderful expertise that he has, for your son, Logan, for operating on the camera, and for Wolf for joining us as well. Thank you for joining us and making Vixen football possible. And, of course, for all of you, again, Sean Parker, Kelly Schultz will have the call for you next week. And for Brian Sweeney, I am Alex Westhead. We want to thank you for attending and viewing tonight's game. The final score, 31-14, the Slam victorious over the Vixen. This is your home for Minnesota Vixen football, Town Square Television, and mnvixen.com.